be producing the product, but who produced it for us and how are they ethically producing it? Okay, how are we delivering it to our customer? And are we being as thoughtful in terms of sustainability and how we're delivering that product as well? And lastly, and this is a merchandising piece, a lot of times students will say, well, yeah, but how does that relate to retailing and merchandising? Improved planning is so important in this digital era. Nobody can have the crystal ball and be 100% accurate, but you want to be accurate and right more times than not, right? Or be right more than you're wrong. So looking at using data to help you to make decisions, forecasting with as high degree of accuracy as possible. And that helps you to optimize your resources. And if you're optimizing your resources, you're probably also being more sustainable, both in terms of your offerings and how you're delivering it, but also your business survival can be more sustainable too, right? So those are some things that I think really ring true, and I pulled selected ones out of the NRF's recent report on what are some of those big directions, those things that should be on our radar. So as we look at what the common link is among all of these trends, they're driven by change, digital change, and also managed or navigated through digital strategies and practices. Okay, so we're in a digital world, and data can be a really powerful tool to help you understand your customer and also to manage your business operations and how your customer engages with products as well. So we know that it's all about having a successful retail business, which includes sales and increasing product turn and all of those types of metrics, but it's no longer just about sales. We're also looking at that customer relationship and being able to retain customers. And if you want to retain customers and attract new ones, you really need to get all of these points right. Okay, so connecting all of those dots. Okay, so today we will be looking at what it means for our 3 retail-ready gas companies in terms of being digital and how they're navigating this new normal in retail in this world that's increasingly all things digital. So that's what we'll be looking at today. That's my background to Dr. Fiore, who's going to now, I thought it would be a really big picture. This is the big picture of retail trends. And she's going to show us some really hot buzzwords and increasingly used technology. Yeah. So, and on that, I'll just let you take over, Dr. Fiore. Thanks.
I'm Dr. Henry Fiore, and I teach consumer behavior, particularly experiential marketing. But I want to talk to you a little bit about how we're looking at digital technology and how it's important to retaining the customer and satisfying the customer. And what we're talking about here is having that ongoing conversation with the customer. And what does that mean? Well, that means engaging the customer, letting them give you information about what they think about the product, what they think about your company, but also answering their questions. So consumers have a lot of questions. Now, there's lots of customers, you have to engage them. And we can't hire enough people in a company. It's very expensive, and labor market is really tight now to communicate with all these people. So what are we using now? We're using AI, or artificial intelligence. So we're talking about using machine learning to talk to these customers. And right now we're using a particular kind of AI technology. So let me ask you a question. What AI technology or feature online are companies using to literally have conversations with their customers and meet their customer needs? You're on websites or you're online and you're communicating with a company and you want to know what your product is, or you want to, good, chatbots. Does everyone know what a chatbot is? Like, have you had experiences with chatbots? Good or bad? You want to have a good experience with a chatbot? What's a good experience? Sometimes you don't even think that you're talking to a machine, right? You think you're talking to a real person. They might be empathetic. They answer your questions right away. So that would be a really good experience. How about a bad experience with a chatbot? When you ask for information, they won't give it to you, right? And so when we're looking at this, chatbots are all over. We use them all the time. Anyone use Theory? or Alexa, that's a chatbot, right? So what you're finding is that retailing is depending more on chatbots. In particular, there's a chatbot that's been in the news recently. What's the big chatbot that's been all over the news recently? Right, ChatGPT. Have people heard of ChatGPT? Right? Okay, if you haven't, after this, you're going to go home and you're going to put ChatGPT in there, and you're going to see it's a whole new world. Everyone in industry is talking about that. Every student should be talking about it because it's writing papers, it's taking exams, it's doing a lot of things for students. So what you need to do is start to look at ChatGPT, because not only are you using this technology, these chatbots and ChatGPT working when as a customer, but when you go into the industry, you're going to be using it as personal assistants. So ChatGPT is really being used a lot in industry as personal assistants to do many of those tasks that you're going to be able to do. According to, and this is OpenAI is actually the company that produces ChatGPT, but it says it's a chatbot that uses deep learning techniques to generate human-like responses to text inputs in a conversational manner. So what does that mean? You can ask it questions in your own words and get something that you can understand. You don't need to be a computer programmer in order to be able to get the information that you need from it. So think about how that's going to change the kinds of things that you're going to do as an employee in a particular company. And just looking at some of the things that companies are using it for. Marketing research. So what can it do? It can actually create the surveys that you want to use with your customers. You don't have to create the survey. It can do it for you. It can analyze the data that you get. And it can tell you about their buyer behavior. What are they buying? What's the products that they prefer? What marketing strategies are more effective? And this is going to affect what products you're probably likely to offer and the kinds of marketing strategies that you're going to use. Also, personalization. Personalization is really important to keep customers engaged with your particular brand. It can send personalized marketing messages about products, things that you're more likely to like, you probably don't know that. But they can also do things like take those promotions and translate them into other languages for you so that you can reach a lot more customers that way. They're also using it to make very personalized selections for customers. You can go into stores sometimes and talk to a chatbot and say, hey, what's the best thing for my particular style? These are the things I like. It can use your past information, buying behavior, and say, oh, these are things that we would recommend for you. So you have a personal stylist right in a retail space. It's also being used for inventory management. So it can go in and analyze what's going on with your inventory, let you know that there might be shortages coming up, there are things that you need to reorder. So it's doing all that information selection for you, and analysis for you. Also, what we're finding is that it's also used for fraud detection. So it can tell there's some patterns that are going on here that suggest fraud. So no matter what part of the merchandising industry that you're going into, or the fashion industry you're going into, you're likely going to be using these chatbots as personal assistants to help you with your jobs. So it's really exciting. They're using it now, and it's only going to grow. Right, we would say that it's perfect yet. We're just starting out with ChatGPT, and they're making some changes to it to improve it. But according to Bill Gates, and you have to understand, he's sunk a lot of money into ChatGPT.
Yeah.
He says that businesses will distinguish themselves by how well they use ChatGPT. So it's probably here to stay. So hopefully when you listen to the things that our presenters are talking about today, think about that. How might these chatbots or ChatGPT be used in doing these particular activities? Okay, with that, I will hand that over to, I guess, Zoe. Okay, great.
Okay, so I'm Zoe. I'm a PhD student here in the AMD program, and I'm really excited to introduce our first speaker today. really enjoyed watching your business grow and change over the years as like an outsider looking in. So today we have Stacy from Oak Lane Candle. She's going to kick off our Retail Ready Summit. And she's going to talk to us about how to build a direct-to-consumer brand. So direct-to-consumer brands really popped up during the pandemic as everybody was home and you really could only shop from home, right? And this was a novel way to get in front of your customers, right? To create a direct-to-consumer brand. But now since the change is post-pandemic, that approach is no longer novel enough to sustain growth. You have to have a connection with your customers to sustain growth. And Stacy, I think, does a wonderful job of that with Oak Lane and really making a consumer-centric environment with her business. Stacy graduated from Iowa State with a degree in marketing from the College of Business. And then in 2015, she founded Oak Lane Candle Company. And that started out as a way to raise funds to adopt her two older kids. And it really, the store started with a few candles on Etsy and now has grown to the storefront you see on Main Street. And she does a great job not only of creating a welcoming environment, but also does a good job of fostering both within other creatives within AIMS. So I'm thrilled to have her speak with us today. So without further ado, Stacy, I will bring you up to the front and we will get you started.
All right, well, thank you for that introduction. My name is Stacy Negrete, like Zoe mentioned, and I own Oak Lane Candle Co. We are located here in Ames, right on Main Street. Okay, so Zoe mentioned quite a bit about me, but I graduated Iowa State 2013. Has evolved through an amazing campus since then too. I've been married to my husband Adam in the photo there for 10 years, and we have 3 kids. 2 of which you can probably tell are not biologically related to me. My oldest 2, we adopted from Uganda 6 years ago. We just celebrated our 6th year as a family. So, and then Ray, this photo is quite old, but she is now 2.5. So she joined our family in 2020. And so that's us. I think that in a presentation like this, it can be a little bit weird to share personal information like this when you're, especially speaking of a business. However, my personal story plays a huge part of my business. So Zoe mentioned that we started as an adoption need. So my husband and I started our adoption process in 2014, excuse me. And with that comes a lot of fees, a lot of court costs, things like that. So we needed to raise about $50,000. A couple years into it, about 2 years into it, we had done a lot of penny pinching, we've done garage sales, t-shirt sales, just things that, you do to raise money for things like that. So about 2 years into it, I was like, we have about a year left to go. We were getting ready to travel to Uganda, which is a lot of fees in themselves. And so I was trying to think of something that wasn't a direct ask for money from people that I'd been doing. And, people were definitely supporting us, but I really wanted to be able to give them something in return, essentially. So, honestly, as somebody who was not really a candle person to start with, I just got my wheels turning about things that I knew people bought. And I don't necessarily love to tell people that I wasn't really a candle person, because that's kind of what you think. Oh, you must have loved candles, so you started making candles. No, not quite. I mean, I never disliked candles, but it just wasn't something that I burned a lot of. However, I knew that people did. And it was the fall, so I was gearing up to Christmas, and I knew that people would be interested in purchasing candles as gifts, if not for themselves. So what I wanted to do in making candles was produce something that people wouldn't just buy as part of the adoption, right? We'd had plenty of things that people just, they felt a nudge in their heart to help us, so they purchased, like I said, a t-shirt or a garage sale bind or whatever. And so I knew that I wanted something that people could buy and buy more of because they liked it, not just to give us the funds. So I kind of sat on it to myself for several weeks. I didn't even tell my husband about it. And I started ordering different types of waxes, different wicks, different fragrances, so I could see, you know, really how to start this thing, and how to create something. And looking at the little photo there, it's kind of makes me laugh because that was what I came up with. But I had these little soy candles in mason jars that I could buy at the store, and I was ready to sell them right before Christmas. It was a couple weeks before Christmas, so I started a little Etsy page. I threw it on my personal Facebook page, and I said, I'm selling these candles for Christmas or for our adoption. Check them out. I had those 3 cents there, and I think I did it after work that day, and then within a couple hours, I had so many sales that I had to stop it for the night. So put it on there, you know, people who wanted to support our adoption again from our hometown, from our community here, literally like shut down the site. And I didn't know what to do. I think I had tears at that point, because then I had, you know, when you have something that you physically make, you have to make it. You can't just place order and have it shipped to your consumers, but I'm the one getting it to them. So that was a little bit scary, but we made it work, got everything delivered around Christmas. And I thought, okay, so here, let's go, we can do this. From there, I really enjoyed the connections that I started making with people. You know, even the little mason jar candles, people were thrilled with. They would tell me, and I love to hear that. I perked up when somebody would tell me that. So from there, I thought about doing a farmer's market here in Ames, so I did that. After that, a Main Street storefront came about. So as you can see, it's just really grown into something from, you know, starting right there. So like I said, here's our second version of our product. So we have 100% soy candles. So right now, especially, and like Dr. Neiman talked about, sustainability is a huge part of the industry, the retail industry. And so when people are burning candles, something in their home, there's definitely more of an understanding of what's in the product and where it's coming from. So soy candles, that's kind of a buzzword right now in at least the candle industry, because people want to have something that's clean. They have it in their home, around their kids. They want to have something that's going to be a clean product for them. So they've kind of associated that soy with a clean product. So for me, it's a consumable good. People light it, they burn it, they come back, they get more, right? That's how my business grows. It's handcrafted, which means, again, Dr. Neem touched on these points. People can see where the candle is coming from. They can physically come into my store and see me or my staff making the candle. So it's not this, or getting a shipment of candles from China, but physically you can see them being made. And then cause driven. So when our adoption finished in 2017, I continued to make candles, obviously. Right now we give back to Uganda. We support kids going to school monthly. So it's still there as a cause driven, although it, you know, obviously our heart of starting there really came from that. Okay, so today, so this is our current product, same candle, new label. And our store has over 45 different scents that we have with different types of candles throughout. I, as a creator, just love experimenting myself. And so, you know, although staying inside of the candle niche, I just love to experiment. So you saw my Instagram, there were little eggs this week. They were pretty cute, but candles are heart and soul. So that's where we will stay. And then at our shop right now, we also have a boutique in there called We the Dreamers. Is anyone familiar with that? So We the Dreamers is a boutique who started in Ames, and she had a shop on Main Street prior to the pandemic, and during the pandemic had to close her doors. So she approached me about renting space, and so we kind of have a collaboration. Her boutique is mainly focused on sustainability. So she has a curated collection of thrifted clothing, as well as jewelry, beauty, small gifts that are sustainably made. And then another large part of our store now is our pour bar. So we actually had quite a few of you come in and do the pour bar at our store. So what that is it allows our customers to come in and create their own custom scent, custom candle. Again, it's getting them into my spot basically of creating and seeing what goes into the candle making. Okay, so like we talked about in the introduction, technology is a huge part of our business, right? Especially during 2020 and the years that followed. Technology was 100% necessary for our businesses to survive. People were not coming in our doors to get our products. They were staying at home. Fortunately for me, during COVID, people wanted to create a comfortable home environment. And so candles was a really easy way to do that. As somebody who was at home myself, I was able to connect that with my customers, right? Like they're home, I'm home, we're all home together, let's burn a candle. And so because of that, we were fortunate enough to keep our doors open. But that was one example of just how that technology played a part into us even being here today. So something about a word that I learned this week was story selling that I have on there. It's not a typo. And that's really, it just kind of hit me because that's exactly what I've been doing with my business. So I'm somebody who loves to connect with my customers, and my customers love to connect with me, and we do that through our shared stories. And so one of the things people constantly tell me that they love that I do would be my Instagram page. So I don't have like a huge following. You can see I've got about 3,500 followers. But every week, a couple times a week, I'll get on there and I'll just, talk. I'll say, hey, how's it going? This is what I did this weekend. And I just am blown away by like the responses of people and people outside of Instagram that reach out to me and tell me that, they appreciate that. So I think that what that does, like I have up there, is it's authentically me. Like it's not always comfortable for me to do, honestly. And I definitely have to divide my life and of what I want to share and what I don't want to share and things like that. But it allows people to know me, which then knows my business, right? Because as a small business here in Ames, and this is certainly perhaps different from larger corporations, but I am my business is me. And so if you come into my store and you see me, people associate that, how I act, what I say, people know, are you the owner? That's what they just assume because of the way that I'm carrying myself and talking to them about, how the store started, things like that. So by doing those just small steps, like I said, I'm not in a world of influencers, right? You can hop on Instagram and see an influencer almost every page that you probably follow. And that's not what I am. I think because, we do connect with influencers well. But they're always, linking this or linking that. And I'm obviously on my page, but they're there for, again, I'm my business, the business is me. So it's this connected brand that I've created. It also just allows people to be able to, again, see that it's a real person behind the business, a real person making the candles, right? You're coming in, you're burning a candle, and you're able to connect that with the people that are actually making it. So give us a follow if you'd like. And then our website is the same. I don't know. It's okay.
Is it working?
It's just a little finicky. Okay, so I'm gonna try and see if I can click on this. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be able to. So that's okay. But so this is just a snapshot of the front of our website. So we have a photo of our candle of the month that comes out monthly, and then right there, we just have who we are. So I'll read it if you can't. It says Oak Lane Candle Co. is a candle and gift shop located in the heart of Ames, Iowa. We use all natural soy wax harvested right here in the Midwest, phthalate-free fragrances, and a lead-free cotton wick, so you can be sure your burn is clean and natural for your home. We believe in hospitality, creating a space where people feel welcomed, loved, and included. And then an about us link. So the first thing I want people to see is my face, but also who we are, who I am, who my brand, is. And my statement of basically why I'm doing this, right? Why are you choosing, or what you've landed here on Oak Lane Candle Co. Why would you choose these candles that are likely more expensive than what you can find at Target? And so I want to catch people with that right away. I want people to initially see that there's a face associated with this brand. And then I want them to keep reading about it. So I don't think I can get this, unfortunately, but my about page has 3 different kind of sections on it. And I'll let you go there after this. But the first section talks about a little bit more about hospitality and why we're creating candles, right? Again, I said, I'm not like I don't love candles so much, I wanted to make my own type of thing. But I truly want to make people feel comfortable and at home. So that's why we make our candles. That's the whole reason behind it. After that, how we got there. So there's a picture of my family, my 2 older kids and my husband and I in Uganda, and how we got from starting the business and how it was associated with that, and why it played such a big part into it. And then one more section down on that page is where's Oak Lane? What is Oak Lane? A lot of people ask if that's like the street I live on now. And it is, I didn't live on Oak Lane, but I grew up on an acreage with oak trees along the side that my dad and I planted. So it just is a piece of my heart that I wanted to incorporate into my business as I was naming it. So again, all 3 of those different things are an opportunity to connect with somebody. So whether it's, somebody works from home, they read that first part and they think, yes, that's what I want. I want that warm and cozy space at home. The second area there is our family story. So somebody navigates the site, reads about our adoption and how our kids came into our life. Somebody else who, has adopted, is adopted, has people that they love that are adopted. There's so many different parts that somebody can connect with on that point. Even people who just do work in Uganda, there's just a ton of different parts of that somebody can connect with. And then the last point of where Oak Lane is. So somebody growing up in a small town, somebody who lost their parents, there's a bunch of different pieces from that just one page that people can connect with. And so from there, then people are shopping. And so I know this because people who I don't know find the page, they shop, and they feel the need to leave a note, right? I found your page because I was looking for candles, and I also grew up in a small town in Iowa. Or my brother adopted, and so this means a lot to me. So there are things that are coming from this that I don't know these people, but they feel like they know me, and so they can trust then my brand and what I've created, and the product that they're going to receive. So inside of the store, so this is a photo of our pour bar. And as I mentioned earlier, this is something that started last year. We opened it up, and it really came from people wanting to see us make candles. So we've had a couple phases of our shop. I always tell people that it's an ongoing project because That's what happens when you own an old building. But the way we had it set up was our store was kind of segregated. So we had a back space where we poured the candles and then a front space where we had retail. And the retail space was, the building kind of came up and not really a planned business transaction. So we kind of wanted it to be smaller just because I didn't have an idea really of what we wanted to do. So we just kind of threw the candle making operation in the back, had a door, small retail space, and that was it. So what we constantly found out though was as we got busier and busier, it was difficult for us to make candles back here, right? Making candles, hear the doorbell, we come out, we greet people, we help them shop, all while I'm kind of panicking because the wax is, that's a timely product. So if it's hot, it sets. So if there's somebody in the store and I'm just sort of like waiting there, hoping my wax is still warm enough to not set in my pitcher, it just became a little bit difficult to be able to manage both the working and the retail. We'd also run into people kind of walking through the store and then they'd see the doors and they'd sort of peek and wonder what was back there and, just what are you doing here? So that was where we had the opportunity that we want people to know that we make the candles, right? So we would say, oh, we actually make the candles here. And then it was just like all these light bulbs, like people didn't know, that our candles that say, hand poured in Ames, Iowa, they didn't know we hand poured them there. So as you can imagine, that's a pretty important part of why somebody would buy these candles. So it just became increasingly evident that we needed that to be in people's faces. So we did a small renovation and now we have this pour bar just right in the center of our store. So you walk in and you see it. It's a large countertop. It's our large wax warmer there. And got something smells amazing in here. So it's just, we had enough people say it, we decided to put it on the wall. But you're not gonna miss it, right? And still to this day, we get people while we're pouring candles like, oh, you make the candles here? So, I mean, it's something that you just need to put in people's faces. But what this allowed us to do, even before the pour bar, it allowed us to make candles while people were in shopping, right? And so not only did our production levels increase significantly because somebody could come in and we could greet them while we were physically pouring, but it allowed people to connect with that product, right? They could see us making it, they could see them on the shelf and then kind of put the two and two together. So now what I've opened up for the public to do is make their own candles. And we know that consumers are very self-absorbed, right? They love anything they can do, they can make it about them. So what this does is it takes the customer's favorite scents and they mix them together to create something totally custom. So I don't even allow my pour bar customers to make something that we keep on the shelf. I give them a small discount if they want to buy it, but the candle that they make has to be at least 2 scents that are blended together. What this does is, again, it allows for people to keep buying my candles that they like in their original scents, but then also they've created something themselves. It's something totally custom. Nobody else in the world has a candle like that. Because I've even had multiple people use the same scents, but everybody's ratio is a little bit different. So it's truly unique to them. And so they feel like they're a part of the business then. They feel like they are, with me right there making candles. And so since they're connected in that way, they can tell my story. So if somebody comes over, they have their candle burning, then they're telling the story of Oak Lane for me. So they know how things started. They know why we're there, what we do. And so they are the ones telling the story, which then has other people telling the story. Another thing that we have started doing within the last 2 years or so is creating custom candles. So does everyone know Bergie's? Yes. So Bergie's is a local coffee company here in Ames. They've got 3 or 4 locations within Ames. And so they sell a candle that they helped come up with. They're created a custom scent. And it has my name on it, basically. So when people go in there, they know Bergie's are an established business. Now they can see that this candle, which, you know, everybody loves, but maybe doesn't even know Oak Lane or doesn't come to Main Street. So now they're creating this connection between a small business that they love, Bergie's, and a small local business in Ames, Oak Lane. And so that connection that is created, and then people are coming through my door, checking out our website, checking out our social media. I've even had a woman came into the shop several months ago, and she's like, "Oh, it's just amazing. You're making candles for Bergie's and Varsity Car Wash and Iowa State, and you know, all these different places." And for somebody to know specifically that many, and it was a little bit weird, right? Because unless you're seeing my emails and knowing what I'm working on, you wouldn't see them all in one spot. But she said, I said, "What do you do?" And she said she's a house cleaner. So she goes into people's homes who have all of these different Oak Lane candles, and so put that together. So that's a good example of the recognition that, you know, wouldn't necessarily be had if I wasn't collaborating with these other local businesses. So neat, I think. So custom candles too are one of the things on our website because it's an FAQ. People are always, again, consumers are obsessed with themselves, their brand. So they want their brand on something, right? So they want, it's just like you go to a college fair or whatever, and you're getting their pens, you're getting their materials, you're getting their cups. It has their information on it. That's what they want. They want their information on something and they want to be unique. So that's where the candle comes into play. So I would say weekly we have like 5 to 10 different people asking about custom candles and how they can do it, whether it's a company or a wedding or something like that. So I think that is it. But I would love to answer questions about either just the shop itself or how we're using the social media and websites to further our business.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How did you go about shipping when you started?
How did it go about
Like
that?
shipping the products to people?
Yeah, sure. So honestly, that hasn't changed a ton. I wanted to make sure the candles would obviously stay safe and protected in their boxes by the USPS. So I just packaged them up, used USPS. That's what I prefer to do because of their priority shipping, because it has insurance. But through Etsy, it's just available on the site. Through my website now, it's the same thing. It works through Shippo and gets me everything I need to ship it out.
So with starting your own business, I know it takes a while to actually make profit once you like buy a storefront, pay employees, that kind of thing. What was that process like and how long did it take for you to start?
It hasn't been a super long journey to be profitable, I will say. You know, when I started very small. I was still working full time. I worked out of college. I got a job at Workiva. So I was there for about 8.5 years before I quit. And I started small. Like I was, again, and I mentioned, I didn't really anticipate on starting a full-on business. And with the building, it just kind of was a real estate investment before it was a storefront. So after that, I mean, I was open 1 to 2 days a week, pending availability. And then, and for me, being out there at a farmer's market was better visibility than being in the store, right? Because people didn't know the store was really there yet. So for me to be out and to say, hey, I'm here, you can find me at 121 Main Street, that was more important. So I would say it was a slow journey to be where I am now, open 7 days a week. But I mean, I kept my costs low and really pushed out that social media and my presence to people. And so grabbed them while I was continuing to build.
Who would you say your target market is?
So my target market would definitely be women, 30s to 50s probably, people who are cause driven. They want to feel good about what they're buying, what they're making. More and more, as I mentioned earlier, like people are wanting to know what's in their products and what they're using. So there's definitely been a larger amount of younger people who are coming in because they want something. They just learned about the dangers of paraffin wax, and so they want something clean for their home. So definitely is gearing towards younger, but our products aren't, they're not the same candles you're gonna find on the shelf at $5 for $5 at Target. So definitely people who are going to be spending more money, and again, who have that feel good, they want to feel good after they buy.
Where do you see the company growing?
That's a good question. So this week, actually, I had somebody in, I think she was a design student working on like a magazine that they were publishing themselves. And she said, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I wouldn't say this is really the norm to say, but I remember when I was taking marketing classes in the College of Business, my professor was a man who was a small business owner. And we had to, one of our projects was to go and help a small business get to the next level, essentially. And so everybody in the class, every group, it would establish another location here, triple revenue here, do all of these things. And he was like, guys, these are small business owners. They don't want to be, these huge corporations, which isn't true of everybody. But, you saw I have 3 kids. And so I want to expand and I want to grow, but at a very slow rate at this point, because my business needs to serve me right now. It needs to serve my customers. And so right now I want to grow and expand kind of where I am, like in a minimal amount. Of course, I want to see increasing revenue with new products within candles. But I truly don't have a dream to be the next Yankee Candle, or Bath and Body Works, because that's not serving me right now, because I have basketball tournaments to go to for my 14-year-old, and I have, volleyball for my 12-year-old, and keeping up with a 2.5-year-old. So I need to expand in that way. So I keep that in mind a lot when I'm thinking about what do I want to do, because as I mentioned, when you're making a product, you have to physically make the product. Outsourcing is not something I'm considering right now. Again, because of where I want to be in my expansion. Like I want to continue to have myself and my team make these products, just to have that kind of hands-on product for people. So I don't know. I think that I've considered, I'm gonna have had people asking about franchising, because the 4 bar is a really easy thing to bring into anywhere, because people want that experience. And so that's, certainly on my radar, but right now I'm trying to focus on having my business serve me and my family and my customers.
I have a question for you, Stacy. You said you have 45 fragrances now, and you do a fragrance of the month.
Yes.
How are you using your consumer data or sales to drive what fragrance lines you carry, and also like the can?
Absolutely, yeah. So like as I mentioned, we have a candle of the month. So this is a new candle that comes out on the 1st of every month. We make about 100 of them, and then once they're gone, they're gone. So I have a candle of the month subscription that I have people on that can get that automatically shipped to them. Otherwise we just sell it in the store. But it plays a huge part in what I'm thinking for the future, because I basically use that month as a tester. I want to know, do people like these floral fragrances? I've never had a ton of huge success with floral, but when I offer them in small dosages, like the candle of the month, and it's a specific season, for example, lilac, they're gone within 7 days. So I think that, and I've noticed that, right? I've brought in candles in the floral category before, and they just sort of will sell, but they're not like consistent sellers. If I bring lilac in April, everybody buys it because it's lilac in April, So I found that things like that are going to be better on a quick turnaround basis that keeps people coming back, knowing when it's coming and year after year, then, you know, somebody doesn't necessarily want lilac in October. So, I've also had candles that I bring, that I just wanted to test to see about bringing it into the next year's season. So for example, I had a ginger and spice a couple years ago in the fall, and that sold really well. It sold out very quickly. So I brought it into the fall line the next year. So it sort of allows me to kind of test and see what people are liking. I did a orange and sriracha one year, which I thought was fun and exciting, and everybody hated it. So we eventually sold them, but it took a while. I think we had like several into the next month still. So, and again, people bought them eventually, but it's not something that I'm going to do again, because when I have a candle of the month, I want it to be quick, I want it to be exciting, and I want it to be gone. That's always the push. So, yeah.
What's your favorite candle scent that you've made?
That is always what people ask. And it's a hard one to answer because obviously I choose all of them. Like before the season starts, I go through all of my samples and I decide what I like out of them. And so I definitely have favorites for seasons. This season's favorite is leather and teakwood. It's definitely more earthy. But other ones that I love, sweet tobacco, mint and grapefruit, and classic vanilla buttercream. It was my very first one that I tested at home, but yeah, I like to have my staff write notes on the candle. So everybody has different preferences, and this is sometimes hard for people to understand. So when people come into the pour bar, they're like, "Oh, you're the expert. You tell me what to do," you know, and it's like, well, yes, I know the fragrances well, but what I prefer in my home is different than what you will prefer in your home. And so it's hard. And I try to explain that to people that like, just because I like it doesn't mean you're going to, you know, and I obviously don't take offense to that. If somebody comes in and tells me a candle smells bad, but it's like, you know what, that's all right. Every scent will kind of create a different memory and nostalgic feeling for every different person. So it's impossible for people to connect on every single one like that. So, did you have a question? Yeah.
Have you ever taken in a scent that a customer has made, like at the pour bar?
That's a really common question too. And no, I haven't. I've definitely thought plenty have smelled good. But what that would then do is create a candle with multiple scents in it. But I want to have kind of individual scents for people so that they can blend them together. So we do staff picks and things like that, recommendations for people that I've been like surprised at candles that have worked well together, or just, you know, taken note of that. But on my shelves, on my candle shelves, I want to have those individual ones separated so that people can combine them. Yeah.
Have you always ordered like the wax and the fragrances from like the same company, or as your business has grown, have you kind of switched companies?
That's a really good question. And it's changed a lot since COVID, honestly. So I started out ordering from a company that specialized in candle products, so wax, fragrance oils. My fragrance oils have really remained pretty consistent because I have a really, fragrance oils matters to me, right? Like I care what kind of oils are going into my candles, and they're not all created equally. So the candles that the fragrance oils that I use are very high quality, phthalate free, paraben free. And they don't have endocrine disrupting chemicals, which again is kind of this hot topic of knowing what's you're putting in and around your body. So I pretty much stuck true to that company. But for my wax, so wax is a very heavy product. Obviously, we get it in 50-pound boxes, or we did. And so trying to find the cheapest wax, but the shipping can be a huge part of that. So, you know, paying $800 for shipping a pallet of wax that you're going through in 2 months is kind of difficult. So I was able to find a supplier that's a lot closer. So a lot of soy wax is coming from soybeans. So truly a lot of it is grown in Iowa and coming and manufactured in Iowa. So I found a company that's just a couple hours away who manufactures the wax into little beads. And so I was able to talk my husband into taking every couple months, take a day off work and bring a trailer, and we pick up the wax from there to save that several $100s in shipping. And again, like when I do that, I go on Instagram and I take customers along with me so they can see like what is going into it. My husband is hauling these bags of wax and putting them on there and I'm watching. But you know, they can then feel like they know what's going into it. But yeah, that's a really good question because during COVID, you know, I couldn't even get my jars, I couldn't get my lids. And it wasn't until a couple months ago that my glass supplier had kind of gone down to their prices pre-COVID, the same as pre-COVID. So I was going to a different manufacturer and I mean, they weren't preferable for us, but they were significantly cheaper. And so that's just what I had to do for that time until we could get back to my preferred supplier.
How many other places like see myself, you know, Berkey's or whatnot, how many other collaborations, I guess,
Sure.
if you will?
I don't have an exact number, but several. I've done things like I said, RC Car Wash as like a Christmas gift, that type of thing. I've done them for other stores, like for their own brand to sell. I've done them for weddings, so people gave them as their wedding gift. So I work with a really talented designer, and so can really do anything from a label. The Birdies was a very basic label because that's what they wanted. But you know, for the wedding, they wanted their invitations mimicked. It was on a beach, and so they wanted something like that. That one too, they wanted like a beach scent, which is not something I really carry. So it was a custom blend that they did. And they were in North Carolina, so they just had to trust me on that one. But yeah, and right now I'm working with a nonprofit who's giving them and selling them too. So yeah, I think people just talk and people see these connections and collaborations, and so then they want to do it too, you know. So
On a sustainability aspect, do you like allow customers to bring their glass jar back in and then get it like refilled?
yeah, really good question. So we have a program where customers can bring back their jars for us to reuse. However, we don't refill those jars specifically if they came from us. And the reasoning for that is that if somebody brings in a grapefruit tangerine candle, for example, once it refilled and we put it in our, you know, pile of grapefruit tangerines, it's like, does this go back on the shelf? Does this go to the customer? Do we need to bag this one up? So that can just be a little bit tricky. So we tell customers that we will not refill those just because they can buy it off the shelf. We'll reuse the glass, which is the, you know, sustainability factor for that. But what we do is if somebody were to purchase either thrift a container, have one of their family's old ones, have an old candle container that they use that they love, and it's clean, we'll refill those for $1.75 an ounce for them. So we weigh that candle and then they can fill it with whatever they want. So we've had people do like their grandma's mugs, you know, the coffee mug. Target has great vessels, so really have just refilled those. One person consistently brings in like the little dollar spot jars and glasses from Target. And so she'll fill those and then she puts them all over her house. So that's a really great way to basically reuse those materials and stuff. And in our jars, we will put those back into production once they're cleaned out properly and relabeled. But we also have a pour off candle is what we call. So every time we pour wax, we have just or pour candles, we have just a little bit left over. And so something that we'll do is pour it into a jar, and instead of just throwing that jar out or tossing it in the trash, we just put a little recycle label on it, and it just says, this is a recycled candle. Those are all parts of candles that we've poured. So we sell them for half price, but what it does is customers can take it home and burn it, and the wax is going to either be layered in there separately with us not even knowing what was in there, or poured in hot. So it's just like one blend of fragrance. And I like to tell people that so like I said on the slide, people come in like, oh, it smells so good in here. And it's not, you know, because we use clean fragrances, it's not an overwhelming like headache smell, but it's truly just like a light, smells really good in there. And it's really dependent on what we've been pouring that day. And so I tell people that the little pour off candles are essentially what it smelled like in the store at one day, because if we poured 4 different batches of candles, all those little bits are now inside of the recycled candle. And that's when you burn it, you're not really sure what it's going to be, but it'll smell good. So.
We have time for one more question.
Somebody's got one.
Do you love candles now?
I do. I still don't go home and burn them right away. Like a lot of my customers are like, oh, I get home from work and I instantly light one, or I light one every morning when I journal. And I just kind of forget to do that, honestly. I think that's probably my personality more than anything. But I certainly love the ambiance and the coziness that a candle creates. So. All right, well, thank you guys.
Hello, everybody.
Did I know?
And I'm Dr. Doreen Chong, and I'm an associate professor in AMB, and I teach consumer behavior in e-commerce. And if you are my student in 375, please come up and say hello, because that is an online course and I don't see everybody all the time, right? So please come up and say hello later on. So one of the things that we discussed for digital agents is that consumers becoming less and less loyal. They have a lot of choices. They don't stick with one brand for a long time. Therefore, it becomes very important for brands to build their own community, to connect with their customers through different decisions based on data. Therefore, we have House Apparel today to talk about data-driven decisions. And a little bit of background for House Apparel. House Apparel is a brand based in Okoboji, Iowa. It was founded in 2014 by two Iowa State alum, Laura State, who graduated within our very own apparel merchandising design program in 2009, and Samantha Ring, who graduated in 2010 with a degree in advertising and graphic design and minor in entrepreneurship. The brand is to fuse fashion, quality, and style for late life. The brand story is very interesting. They started their business with a pop-up shop, a glorified lemonade stand, and along with their website, selling their first graphic tees. Now, House Apparel has expanded to include not only graphic tees, which are all designed by Sam, but also men and women's clothing and kids' clothing from top to toes, accessories, and home soft goods. They have a physical store in Arnold's Park, Iowa, and soon they'll open a store in Washington, D.C. Throughout the years, they have established a vibrant digital presence through their website, social media, and they have built a community of customers who love fashion and travel and late life. So along with them today is Katie Hamilton, who is also an alum of our program from 2017. Okay. So let's welcome Laura and Samantha.
Hello, everyone. Okay, how many people have been to Okoboji or Arnold's Park? And like, okay, a good amount. Yay. Perfect. All right, well, thank you guys for having us today. This is very, very special for us, indeed.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
Back here.
It's been a while for both Sam and I, graduating in 2009 and Sam in 10. Everything's changed, but the campus is still so beautiful. So, yes, as Dr. Tong was saying, I graduated in 2010 with advertising and graphic design. I minored in entrepreneurship. I was a part of the entrepreneurship learning community. It wasn't my idea at the time. A mentor kind of told me to go into that, and it really changed my life for the better, because 9 years later, or a few years later, upon graduation, Laura came to me with an idea about House Apparel. I thought it was an amazing idea, and I just was all in immediately. And Laura and I were best friends in college. Shared this genuine passion for design and entrepreneurship. And 9 years ago, you came up with this brilliant idea. So I thought I could share like a little bit about my story, because I think something that's really important when any of you guys are thinking about wanting to go down an entrepreneurial field and start something on your own, it's really important to know what you want to do and to gain experience before you go into that, that industry or launch that idea of yours. So after graduating, I went out to New York City. I had an unpaid internship with a very small designer out there and didn't have anything to my name, but like took it all, everything I could get from my parents, and had an apartment in Brooklyn, and commuted into the city and worked in the garment district. And so there I was working in public relations for this designer, and actually got to work with the team to help really do casting calls, work with influencers for Fashion Week that year, which was in 2010. And it was the last year at Bryant Park, so it was really special, and it was just a huge opportunity for me to work with a small company. Everyone worked at one table, the designer and owner herself, and then the rest of her team, seeing sales, design, production, everything was right there. I loved it, but I was not made for New York City, still one of my favorite places, so I left. I went out to Colorado and I worked at a golf club merchandising there. I worked in the pro shop actually, and I have a love for nature, a love for being outdoors. And so it was a really nice fit for me. I merchandised, basically ran the shop, but talking about consumer and customer engagement, it's huge because it was a member-based club. And so it's all about knowing the right people, how do you react to that customer? It really taught me how I could go about just connecting with people and making them love the product that I was selling. And when you connect with somebody, like, you are going to be able to, up that sale or have them come in to see you, and then they're shopping at the same time. So I did that for just one summer. Used to have like a really, really strong relationship, lots of internships with them. So I went there after Colorado, and I had my first job as an assistant merchant working in men's, and then I worked in kids. And from there, moved to Omaha, Nebraska, and I actually worked for Oriental Trading Company, which is like party decor. I wanted to stay in the industry. My husband was at law school at Creighton, and so I was kind of taking anything I could get. So it was actually very neat because I learned more of the sourcing side of things. So it was like I got my merchandising experience, and then I went over to this company and was able to get more of that sourcing, product development. I actually took a trip overseas to China, Hong Kong, and got to like go in the factories, see like what that looked like. I saw like, even anything from how things get from A to B, seeing the bicycle, seeing how it got to the port, things like that. So it was honestly a huge part of like my growth, and I think was like leading me to where I was going to be eventually. So I worked at Oriental Trading Company for about 2.5 years. And then my husband and I decided we wanted to move back to Okoboji. It's where I grew up. But it literally had me stuck because I was like, I do not know what I'm going to do here. Work at a bank. It's a small community. There just wasn't a lot in the apparel industry. And so my wheels started turning. And when I was at Iowa State, I took an entrepreneurship class with Dr. Neem over here, and always had a spirit. My dad is actually a pastor, but very entrepreneurial. And so, growing up, I was needing to be that person that always had to interact with lots of people at church, etc. And he's very entrepreneurial. So I think that was within me. Loved that class. I remember the owner of Raygun came to speak. I don't know if you remember that. And he was a really interesting guy. And it was fun, like, hearing him at that point. I had no idea if like I was going down this field, but definitely sparked something with entrepreneurship. So fast forward, started just like racking my brain, trying to think of what is that gap in the market, because truly, like, when you're trying to figure out something new that you want to bring to the table in your market, in your industry, what's the gap, like what's not there, what's missing. And so for me, I identified that in Okoboji, being a resort driven community, everyone wants to buy something that says Okoboji or, is lake-like driven. So for me, the gap was that there wasn't anything that really honed in on fashion, quality, something that you could feel really good and chic in. And so that's how I kind of came up with this idea where I was like, we should create that, have something where we're like, our price points can be a little bit higher, but she's getting higher quality, really cool designs. I mean, at the time I was kind of thinking about companies like Chaser brand, Wild Fox, which are still kind of prevalent, I guess. And so I was like, I want to be the Wild Fox of the lake life industry. So I think one thing that's very important is I tossed that idea with like a small group of people, but people I really trusted. Sam being an entrepreneur, a couple of friends that were in the program with me. But talking to Sam, she was also kind of in a place where she was ready to jumpstart her own thing. And so from there, we really decided to
join forces. She was like, can I design for you? And I said yes. And then from there, the idea was born. Something else really kind of interesting about Boathouses that I did not want to sink tons of money into it. And so I truly like took a tax return and was like, I'm gonna take this money and start a company. And so kind of from there, that's how we got started. And that's actually how we're still funded. Not through tax. Put money back into the business, so our profits go back into the business. That's how people grow. So how did it started? So I kind of just shared a lot of how we got started, but we heard a little bit earlier, but it was in 2014. The gap in the market was huge, so that's what we wanted to go forward with. And then building this glorified lemonade stand. The pictures are great, so you can see like that top one is me, and I worked with some like local guy, and he was like, just a little maker. And I was like, I just want this lemonade stand and I'm going to sell shirts out of it. So that's what we came up with. My friend helped me paint the boathouse on there. And yeah, it really worked. I think marketing plays a huge part in the Boathouse brand. And so we had this little lemonade stand, but we marketed it so that people, were really excited to shop with us. It was an experience. And that helps build the community and the connection that you have with your customer. So that's a little pop-up. We also popped up in other boutiques. So it's really important to get your name out there. So, we hustled in the fact that we would take all our product and we would collaborate with other local boutiques or boutiques in Des Moines, Blonde Genius in Des Moines, if you guys are familiar with. Aaron's a good friend of mine, so we popped up there several times. And so it was really all about like talking with people, building those relationships and getting them to understand the brand, since we didn't have a physical brick and mortar to begin with. And then we also started our company always wanting to have an e-commerce presence. So we started on Squarespace, which a lot of companies use. It's a great tool for people that are like a lot of, I would say, culinary restaurants use Squarespace. It just helps get your website up there, but it was nothing special. It just basically people could find us, click and check out. And we did have online sales that first week of starting. So we started that, but that was the beginning and kind of off we went from there. So where we're at today, so our home away from home, it's our storefront linked in Okoboji in Arnold Park. So if you're familiar with the area, there's one really great street that everyone knows of. It's right by the big amusement park and on the water. And so we're very fortunate that we get to have a brick and mortar space there. The beautiful garage door that comes up, and it's just kind of our little happy place, our little paradise. We also are in 125 retailers across the nation. So a big part of our company is that we offer wholesale. So you can find us from California to New Hampshire. We also generate 10,000 plus users a month on our e-commerce platform. So like Stacey was saying, we have a huge, websites are huge, and obviously just to even gain that first person that clicks in to see who you are, they might just not purchase something right away, but it's gonna bring them back to see what's new. We also created a unique partnership with a resort company called Highway West. And basically this company has over, I think it's 8 or 9 properties across the country. And they chose to partner with us to create shops that carry like 90% of Boathouse. So we created that was in 2022. And last year we were literally throwing like 30,000 units went out the door in a few months. So that was a big deal. And then also you'll just find us in different shops that are going to be from your boutique. We also are in resorts that are in Florida. Really, really fun stuff that's happening with our business right now. And then our very exciting news is that we're launching our second store in Washington, DC, which Sam has been working really hard on, and we're excited about. Yeah, so I don't think I mentioned this, but I actually live in Washington, DC. I moved there when I graduated from college. And when we got started, I was doing my own thing, I had a brand management company. And so it really aligned like what Laura was visualizing and what I was doing. And I have worked remotely in Washington, DC this entire time. I have, since the beginning, always wanted to have my own lemonade stand. I'm like, I can do this on the waterfront or at the mall. Those like cheesy Washington, DC tourist tees are awful. They need something that's fashion forward and cute. And we're finally making it a reality literally next week. So we are going to be canal side in Georgetown.
like 2 blocks from my apartment, so it's gonna be really amazing. There's an amazing, like in Okoboji, you know, the Queen, we have like our own Queen, the canal boat tours, which we will sit alongside, which so it's very cohesive. And we're super excited. I'm wearing one of our new pieces, it's our World Traveler tee, which has short charm.
Awesome. So something that's really huge also, and what's really cool about just the time right now is that we're women-led, women-founded and operated. Every single person that works on our team is a female, and it's something we're really proud of. So people respect that a lot right now. So we're using that to our advantage as well, and just continuing to shout that out that like we're doing it, females, and excited to be a voice for all women right now. So lake living is definitely our bread and butter. It's how we had the idea, it's how we got started. But something that's really cool is that as we expanded and like grew our customer base, we didn't want to just stop there. And so every season we offer new products. You guys may have seen, we always do a tailgate collection. I don't know if you guys have seen that before, but that's a huge one. We do the school colors. We're not licensed, but we come up with quirky sayings and do school colors. And then just talking about like the different channels that we offer. So small team, but we do a lot of business. We have our brick and mortar. We're going to have 2. And then we also have a bustling e-commerce. So we try and update our website once a week, which is huge. We also have another team member, another female that really owns that. And we work as a team to make sure everything's fresh. You know that the consumer, she constantly wants newness. So you can't just like stay like fragrant and like, or stagnant and, you know, something that you've had for a month, like you constantly have to have that newness. So we're always wanting to keep the website up to date and new too. And then we have a rapidly growing wholesale business. So really exciting. In 2021, we decided to take the brand to market. So we started going to Chicago to Style Max is what it was called, and going to a convention center where several brands, they all have little 10x10 booths, and buyers come there to shop your brands. And it's something that when we started Boathouse, it was always a part of our initial plan. Like we knew that it wasn't just Okoboji that had that gap, it had to be more than just Okoboji. And so we started going to market. So that's been really exciting. I think I don't have the exact number, I wish we did, but we really have always offered wholesale in a like small way, but we went from being probably in like, you know, under 20, and then over the last few years, obviously at that 100+ mark, and with those great partnerships, the hotel boutique chain. And then also a big part of our business right now is that we are working with manufacturers in the USA for our garments. And so we're in design of, we're designing all of our own t-shirts, sweatshirts, fabrics. It's something I did not go to school for. And so we're learning along the way. Sam's really taken like a lead on it, but it's been really exciting to be able to see what's happening in the market and see what's trending, you know. Clarity, Sundry, all these great quality t-shirt companies coming out with really fun new feminine designs we're inspired by. And so over the last year and a half, we've been able to really take our design visions and bring them to life. So it's been cool. And we're working with partners in the US. So again, sustainability, you know, I think just like bringing everything back home is important. And so it's kind of like our, like how we see us like leading a sustainable company as well. And then our design, development, and production is all in Okoboji and DC. So just walking you guys through like what our timeline, our design line is like. Really, it's Sam and I collaborating on designs and coming up with these great graphics, and then Katie getting involved and figuring out what's the right garment that it goes on. And then we get everything printed small batch locally in Okoboji, and then we get it back to our warehouse, our offices, and then we ship out everything from there. So everything is done really in a small fashion, and yeah, all of our hands are on it, which is cool. And then something else that's kind of special about our brand and our company is that we also carry other brands that complement Boathouse, and really like we were talking about dress you from, you know, toe all the way up to, you know, a hat to your head. So we carry other brands. We like to really bring in shops that support women or women-led as well. So not everyone, but a lot of them are small as well, like us. Speaking to the brand experience. So when we started Boathouse, we wanted to have a tagline that represented who we are. We came up with Always Smooth Sailing because we wanted to just really create that experience, that brand identity that, you know, all is well, all is good, like the lake, it's kind of where all your worries go aside. So this picture is actually one from last summer. I collaborated with my friend here on the far my left, but she's an event planner, and we came up with a huge fashion show for Boathouse, and then we had a sunset dance party right like off the lake, and it was amazing. Our DJ was a female DJ from Chicago, and it was just a really cool event. Just loved it, and it brought the community together. People that were summering there, the people that were on vacation, locals. It was like a really incredible time. So all of these pictures again are going to show just community engagement. The top one is our brunch with the Queen. So that's something that we do annually. We put on a big event, over 100 people attend, it's ticketed, and it's a really great time. This is another picture from it right here in the middle. We have everyone wear white, and it's right around the 4th of July, and really female. It's like all the girls come out, they get to have a day to themselves, and it's a really nice time for people to connect and to enjoy one another. And then this picture over here on the right is Sam, and then Steph actually is with her, who was our very first intern in 2015. Sam, you can speak to that one.
Oh, yeah. So we did a pop-up in Georgetown in the fall to kind of introduce the brand to some of the neighbors. And one thing I wanted to talk about or touch on with the brand experience and how we want people to experience the brand is this sense of localism, this sense of community, which is exactly what the Brunch with the Queen event does in our fashion show. It really brings together our communities. And even as we grow into these retailers that are located nationwide, it's about bringing a sense of community, and that localism and the customization program that we do is about celebrating where you live or where you love to travel to, your home away from home. And I very much am excited to do my own version of Brunch with the Queen and kind of growing what we've done in Okoboji into the Georgetown community. And one thing that was something I didn't know about Georgetown at first, or was trying to figure out, is like, obviously it's located in a huge metropolitan area, but each of the neighborhoods within a huge metropolitan area actually, to me, remind me of a small town. Once you've lived there for 10 years, all of a sudden, like, my neighborhood becomes so insular. Like, I'm walking down the street and I run into like 10 people that I know. My husband's gonna want to move probably pretty soon. So he's like, I don't want to know everybody. And I love that. And I personally love that because I feel like my small town Iowa experience is I'm being able to bring that to Georgetown, and my customer base there is loving that idea too. And they're excited to become part of that.
So moving into building a brand community, friendship, family, and real conversation. So from the beginning, launching Boathouse, 2014, Instagram was very, very new, but knowing that we weren't going to sink a lot of money and a lot of our budget into paid advertising, I hopped on Instagram right away and created this really real, authentic dialogue with our followers and grew it in that way. So showing them our day-to-day life, like they basically saw like my child. I have a almost 8-year-old now, but I would include my daughter and just like talk to them in a real way. I mean, it's not like new news to you guys that you want authenticity and you're like engaged by hearing somebody talk about their real life. So it's something that, we were trying to do I did right away on our Instagram. And also for me, I really focused in on the love for Okoboji. So knowing that like I was starting a company in Okoboji that is loved by so many people across the country, that was a big part of how we continue to gain people and to like gain their trust, to gain their love, is by showing something they already loved. Let's see, the goal is authenticity, sharing our story day to day. That's what we've done. Daily analytics, story engagement, post engagement, giveaways, reels, highlights, and direct messaging. So Instagram's like our #1 tool. Obviously now it's part of the Meta universe. It's like with Facebook, they offer a really great business insight program. So that's something I use a lot. It's going to tell you your reach. It's going to show you, what videos you're seen, like what videos are getting the highest traction, what items are getting clicked into the most. So it's really important that once we post something, we're going to go into there and see how well did this do. Did they like seeing this table, being like having that shown merchandising from ground up? Did they like it when we showed somebody getting dressed? Did they like seeing just a picture of Okoboji? Is it lifestyle driven? Is it product driven? We're using all of those insights to see what we should do next. And then from there, kind of creating a strategy around it. So maybe we're saying once a week, we're going to do something that's worked really well. Right now, personally, reels and doing videos are getting so much more traction on Instagram. They're rewarding you for it. So it's honestly constantly a learning tool from us. We're like sometimes having just to like throw a dart and see what works. And did we get people, you know, to watch that video, or that one didn't work so much. But constantly just trying new things and trying to utilize what we know they are enjoying from us. And then also looking at the role of data with social media. Just mentioned the merchandising tables. Giveaways are another huge one for us. They still love, like she loves giveaways. So that's a big one where if we're looking to gain our numbers of followers, right now we're at, I think it's like we're 13,000 or yeah, something like that. But we always know from doing a giveaway, we're probably going to gain a few hundred new followers. So that's something we like to do. And the more followers we get, you know, we're also seeing that as like the more people we're bringing to our website, the more people that are going to follow in our journey. And so it's all about that customer relationship and then engagement there.
Just a note on that too, just with everything that we've done so far, we have put small amounts of advertising into our Instagram and our social media campaigning, but most of it is organic. So we've never spent a lot of money to try to grow these audiences, which I think makes this like that number extremely authentic, very raw, very organic. And so we take a lot of pride in that. I'm not saying that that's going to be the story forever, but that's been our story so far.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that also it's like you're mentioning it too, but you have to decide how much you want to share. Like they want to know, the customer like wants to know everything about your life. It gets them engaged. I mean, I don't know how many times someone's like, I feel like I know you. And I'm like, I love that. That's so sweet. Like please, like, let's talk, let's be friends. But you also have to like figure out how much you want to share and then what you keep personal. But yeah, it's really important. And yeah, I think by being so authentic and sharing more and like letting the customer get to know you personally, it's helped us not have to do as much of like a budget, because like we've always, you know, had a strategy on the fact that we're posting at least once a day. We're always giving them story content. We want to be the first person you think of to go to. So we know that works, by the way, like through our insights, we know that that does work, and we see it through sales as well. Like if we're posting something on Instagram and we're tagging this Cheers top, and that week we saw a spike in sales, we can obviously see that, you know, that post worked and we got her to buy it. So yeah, that's great. And then on Facebook, that's a tool that we're going to use a little bit more for sharing events, showing new products. It's interesting because there's two different customers that, you know, one's on Instagram, a different one's on Facebook. And so for Facebook, we have a little bit of an older customer, and she's a little bit more informational. She likes more information. And so with that, we're showing more events, new products, we're sharing our shop hours, news from the brands, things like that. And there are times when if we're having a big sale or something that we're like, we really want this to like circulate and get to as many people as possible, we're going to put like $10 behind it, nothing crazy. And, you know, we do see like, sometimes I see that works, but again, I always go back to the analytics, and I'm like, if that didn't reach, like, we're not going to do that again. And it's constantly seeing what worked and what didn't work through those analytics. And then also with email marketing, we try and send out in the off season, at least like once a week an email. But in the on season, we're like sending like almost like 5 emails, like, or we can do like 4 to 5 emails a week. And with that, we use a platform. Maybe you can speak to it, Sam, a little bit more than I can.
Yeah, we used to send out like, I feel like we're like really got into sending like 3 or 4 emails a week, even in the off season. I think our goal as a small team was to just get that exposure to them at least once a week. And I would say over the last year or so, we've been able to grow that email reach. And yeah, we use a program called gives us insight on not only like what they are liking because of the direct sales that we get from it, but what they're clicking on. So you can like get into the email, you can get into the weeds, you can see exactly what they're interested in and what they're spending their most time on. And then we plan, it's a weekly strategy, pivot. So it's, from 1 week to the next, we might shift our strategy based on what people were gravitating towards the last week.
And I'd say on, just like the email campaigns too, sometimes we're like, this one's going to be artsy and it's not like, it's really not about selling the product. It's just about engaging the customer. So we're also like always trying to keep things fresh for the customer, making sure they're engaged, something that's new and different. Yeah, we did. But I would say, like, I think it is important just to like touch on, we spend a lot of time strategizing on the Instagram platform and the Facebook platform being like really different from the age groups. And so that, we plan out like for Instagram, a lot of people are like, oh, like you just did that, you just came up with it. But we actually strategize like at least a week in advance and do like content days for probably just like one content day a week, but it takes like probably 3 hours to get our content for the rest of the week. But it's all strategic and it's planned out and it doesn't happen in real time. So that's kind of how we go about that. I'm going to speak to this a little bit about our product development and how data plays into the product development. So we look at our sales historically and weekly to really determine what we're going to be developing into for the next year. So like looking at, because we at this point have enough data over the last 9 years to know like what's working and what they're liking, and they're not done with that. So how can we give them the product that they're liking and maybe a new color palette, maybe we tweak the silhouette to be more in line with the yearly trends, definitely colorways and things to that nature. That product development really does start that conversation into our social media, all of our marketing, and definitely to our wholesalers. And where we have a really unique opportunity with our Okoboji store and now with our Georgetown store is to actually test these new designs that we then sell to our wholesalers throughout the summer. So like this summer, we have the opportunity to launch a new design every week and kind of like understand, maybe not every week, but we have an opportunity to do those designs and to see how they resonate with people. Then we can go to our wholesalers when we go to market and say this design flew off our shelves. Like to what Stacey was saying earlier, like some of your candles, they'll go, like the flavor of the month will go, or the scent of the month will go in like 7 days. That's kind of how, that's the same story here. So something flies off our shelf. We know that that's working. And then we try to position it as a customizable piece for the people who are located in other resort communities who can then take advantage of that. So we launched with this saying, Okoboji, the Hamptons of Iowa. It was kind of like our life is good moment, or our like Ray Gun, not Penn State, if you guys remember his speech about how he got started. The Okoboji Hamptons of Iowa has been with us from day one. This was a design that we introduced in 2017. So you can see how it has a lot of legs. Like we've had this design since 2017. It still remains one of our #1 sellers. We can then take that design, we know it works, and it's customizable to our wholesale partners. So this is an example of how we've made it a pocket graphic. And instead of it saying Okoboji, the Hamptons of Iowa, it says the Inn Hotel, the golden age of Okoboji. So we partnered with a hotel that's all Okoboji to create something unique and to build like a boathouse partnership with that hotel. And then redefined. So it's the same design concept, but redefined for, Highway West, the resort brand that we mentioned earlier. They have different locations and they're in mountain communities, desert communities, beach communities. So this one is really cute, and this is for kids. So it's redefined for this brand.
I think it says like Grand Lake, the Switzerland of Colorado. And we, instead of like our cute umbrella, we did a cute Swiss mountain, but specific to the Grand Lake vibe. And you can kind of see the full picture of how the data really drives the design decisions we're making every year, and then how it's customizable and redefined in the different platforms that we have.
And also on that note, like, we'll take our sales data, and if something didn't work, we're gonna sell through it and we're not gonna do that again. So like, we're constantly learning and figuring out, reacting as fast as possible, you know, and chasing into things that work. And also, like, if we see something that's going strong and we have all these like really lovely wholesale partnerships, we're gonna offer that up, you know, out to them right away and try and gain some more sales and try and get them excited about it as well. It's like our orange and sriracha. All right, so this is a cute little timeline of our growth. You can see our lemonade stand over here, and then our shared workspace in 2015, 2015 is when we got our first intern. Yeah, first intern from Iowa State, really, really awesome and sweet. She came on board, I had a newborn, and so she was like, "You're just doing it all together." It was really great. Then we moved into a shared workspace. 2017 is actually when we went into our first brick and mortar. So we were super excited for that. Got a lease right on like the most popular street in Arnold's Park, where the foot traffic is so high that it was a great move for us. 18 we moved into our flagship that we started, which is our gorgeous storefront with the garage door. Love that indoor-outdoor shopping experience. In 2019, we launched our annual Boathouse Brunch. So again, like that, building community, building engagement, building loyalty. We put on this like pretty cool event for women and men if they want to come. But now we're like, the last few years, it's getting over 100 participants that come and they shop and they have fun and brunch with us and sing and dance, and it's a great time. And then 2020, 21, 22, and 23. I would say 2020 through 2022 is kind of like a combination of just growth. In 2020, even during the pandemic, we were able to, I think people just really wanted to wear loungy clothes and relax, and we were able to provide that for them. Also a tribute to home, away from home. People were living in their vacation homes in Okoboji. Yeah. We had several customers that like were from coast, like everyone was like had a lake home, everyone that had a lake home in Okoboji, like tons of LA, tons of New York that moved up there. And so we gained not only like new customers, but like the right customer for us too, because they got us what we were doing. And so it was, like for us, it was like a really, really big year. And, you know, I think you had to get ahead of your communication to a customer during that time. And we really took a place of like respectfulness, and it was a really, really exciting year for us. Yeah, and starting to offer like so like while we weren't necessarily like those days when we were open, they could still come and just pick up their stuff. Also like private shopping. So like we reacted if we're getting like an Instagram message, or I also like I am in the shop often. I was in the shop a lot during that time. So like giving out my number, and like people would text me and like want to come in for a private appointment. I still do that. And I think that's a big part of, and, you know, and just engaging with your customer and, you know, making them feel really, really special, and they like to be dressed and they like to like have your time. And so we offered that as well, which was a huge perk, and really, it was like a sink or swim moment. And like we swam during that time. And then 2021 is when we first went to market. So that was just, a whole different world. It opened up a lot of different doors for us, and we love seeing our product in Martha's Vineyard is so cool, and seeing our product in the Highway West account has 4 properties in the Santa Monica area, and we love that. Seeing our product in these different resort communities is just really great. So that's what going to market did for us. And then, now 2023, stay tuned for next week. Yes, follow along on our journey on Instagram, Facebook, but really Instagram, we're sharing what that looks like. And again, like we're a very small business. And so, we're here like doing the work ourselves. And so I think like a lot of times people think that we're a really big, massive team, and really we're not. It's just us, and our engines are working, but yeah, we really love it. And we're super stoked to connect with people out on the East Coast. And like, again, we're looking at it with opportunity of we're going to have reaching out to like, a very populous city that has several visitors, several locals. And so that's kind of where we're headed into this next season. And then we'll open our doors 7 days a week again in Okoboji starting in May. And then we're in like go time, and we have a brand new collection. We're launching tons of newness. And so yeah, it's pretty exciting. That's that's really like the story and where we're at today. And we wanted to give you guys all of our contact information. Thank you for listening, and also being an Iowa-based company. If you're interested and you want to learn more about Boathouse, if you're interested in internships, like that's always on the table. So take our, talk to us today or take our info down. We'd love to speak more with you. And we also just have a heart for helping women that, want to go play, like have questions and are, trying to do something themselves. So we're always open for bouncing ideas off of.
I am hiring an intern in DC this summer. I would love for it to be an Iowa State grad. If anybody's interested in going out to DC for the summer, definitely email me. And of course, if you guys have any questions, please feel free.
Who's planning our questions? So are you doing our question? If you ask me people who has questions this time.
Sure.
I assume. I asked the Zoom attendees if they have any questions.
Yeah, any questions? Oh, yes.
For some of the students that aren't as familiar with Okoboji area, and you mentioned a lot about resort locations. Can you maybe just share with them, like you're saying, you're in May, coming up. Can you just share with the students a little bit about the dynamic of Okoboji as far as
For sure.
a lot of businesses are open only in the summer?
Yeah.
Maybe share with them a little bit about what that looks like for you.
Yeah. So Okoboji is a very unique community because it is a tourist town and it's a resort community. So from May to September, we are going to have anywhere from 40 to 100,000 plus visitors there weekly. And so it's bustling, but really for our community, there are like most businesses rely on the 4 months of business to survive. And specifically for us, the Boathouse, it's night and day, like what, especially revenue and things like that. When you're getting people walking, there's times where we're getting like several hundred of people through in and out our door and selling to a lot of them. So we're open 7 days a week during those times, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Saturdays. So like nonstop. But yeah, in the off season, we're down to about 10,000 people in the area. At Boathouse, we do stay open, our shop does, but where we're located, it all shuts down. And so we really rely on loyalty, and we rely on that local customer coming back to us or shopping with us online. But it's a big deal for the companies and the different people in our area to survive off of these 4 months of tourism. So yeah, I hope that kind of shares more.
That's great.
The area is like extremely exciting because if you haven't been there, we're getting a ton of support from people that are giving to like the community. And so fortunately, they're beautifying the entire town. And so it's continuing to bring more tourism. And we're super grateful for that as companies based in the area. And I recommend you guys to come and visit if you can, because it's neat and it's stunningly beautiful.
But yeah, as someone who didn't grow up there, is so nostalgic. You just drive in and it feels like it's kind of stuck in time, and there's just this gorgeous blue water, and in the summer it like twinkles, and there's just a lot of magic in that in those few months. And this is coming, like I live on the East Coast and I've, traveled a lot of places. This is definitely like a very special place. And I think that a lot of people connect to that, not just in Okoboji, but our wholesalers too, with the places that we work with nationwide.
Yeah. So to your point too, like we work with a lot of shops that are based in Okobojis across the country. And so what's cool is like, we get them from a perspective of, we not only have a direct consumer loyalty, but like we also have like our wholesale to us like that loyalty too, because we're sitting there saying, we get your brick and mortar retail, we get your seasonal, these will work for you, they're tried and true. But yeah, like I would say that's a majority of the boutiques that we wholesale out to are similar and to shops like us. What other questions?
I have one. What e-commerce platform, like for your website development and then those sales, do you guys use?
Yeah.
Shopify. Okay.
Yeah, it's a great platform. It's
Yeah.
really user friendly. It's also allowing us to create a POS system for the Georgetown shop. And they also have different levels of, you can purchase like different tiers of Shopify. So, you know, as we're growing in our wholesale right now, Katie actually manages, she's very, very organized. She manages it all, but they also offer when you're ready to move into a next level and, you know, obviously jump in the monthly rates, like they offer that too. So I think we've had great success with it. And yeah.
Thank you.
So going back to your last, the last question, and so you do like the seasonal time for you is the summer.
Yes.
So that is actually, you know, of course, most retailers are like, oh, Q4.
Yeah.
But for you, that is right in the middle of the
It
year.
is. Yeah, and it's really interesting because like from my background, I was like, we're hitting Q4 hard. Like that's a part of what I've pushed I think that's why I'm so thankful. And that's why I'm pushing you guys to get the experience from other places before potentially starting something on your own if you're interested, because you just gain so much knowledge. But yeah, the Q2 is like our big one. And then we have really leaned in on Q4. We have a really strong holiday business. And so the Chicago market that we go to, a lot of those buyers are coming from the Midwest. So Wisconsin, Ohio, Illinois, I'm trying to think, Michigan. But they're going to be less lake focused. So that's our customer segment, that the buyers that are less lake focused, and we like sell to them, and we're selling all of our holiday collections. So we create like our best selling graphic from this last season was this like really beautiful pink, like that, I think it's the color of the year, pink ribbed sweatshirt, the like corded ribbed, which is really popular. And it said Very Merry in this really beautiful holly green color. We sold tons of units of that. And it was just so great because we're able to bulk order that because of the sales from that Chicago market. And so, yeah, we're continuing to try and push I would love to see Q4, like battling it out for Q2, but when you're open 7 days a week and you have that many people coming through the door, it's hard to compete with it. So.
Just an overview sense, your buying decision process. She said a lot of your product. You try to source most of your product US made, or some of it it's a combination. How do you go about making those sourcing decisions?
It's the USA made is a combination right now of USA and then other countries where it's being made. But we've definitely, since we've been in business since 2014, we have been around the block to see like what works as far as sweatshirt silhouettes. I mean, we have had our days, I think when I was younger, where we like try to crop, and then we learned our customer is like, we really are trying to service the like granddaughter to grandmother. That's kind of our, like, we just love it. And so, and we also are very like, want to be really inclusive on anyone can purchase something from our shop, no matter like whatever they, no matter what size, anything. And so we have learned like what sweatshirt bodies work the best for us, what fabrics they love the most from us. And then Sam's really spearheaded our sourcing and product development that we've gone through. We do work with we work with like a partner right now who's based in New York and Los Angeles to help us guide us through. And so they have their real, experience and expertise lies within the communication to the factory, but we are working with this like, US based company to create the designs and help us as we're developing the flutter and should it go down here or up here. But
yeah, I think that's our next stage of growth. So we're really leaning into this, leaning into our manufacturing partners and finding what works best for us.
So right now it's more of like
The hybrid,
that it's more of the graphic designs and kind of the concept is with you guys, but then like, you don't do your own tech packs? You do those?
Yeah, we've moved into doing our own tech packs.
Okay.
Like, this is kind of new to the, like, this last growth cycle here. So we just started kind of working, just like knowing what we want and what our customers want was really like what really drove us to do that. So we started working on doing our own tech packs and making sure that the product that we're getting is the quality that we want and the shape and size and consistency. So yeah, it's been fun.
It is. A question, and I hope to not put you on the spot. You said you're looking for an intern.
Yeah.
Is that intern, could that intern also be a tech design intern? Or a product development intern, or are you looking specifically for merchandising?
I would be open to that, absolutely. I think as long as that person knows that they'll have to wear a lot of hats, that they're gonna get like a lot of experience, but if that's something that they are looking for direct experience in, I mean, now's a really good time actually to be that person. So yeah, I would be very open to having a technical designer, someone along those lines apply. Yeah, thanks for the question. Anybody else?
How do you guys decide and split up, how do you divide and conquer? So how do you decide who's doing what, when did you get to that stage of, asking for the person to design all the Sam and, how do you just do it together?
Okay. I was gonna say, so when we first got started, like I had to pay the rent and do all that kind of stuff. So why I wasn't really even involved like full time, I was really just doing like the design work. So that and Maur was doing everything else.
So were you working together or was Laura hiring you?
We worked together from day one. But I was working on the designs and doing like the brand, like helping her with branding and helping her with everything that she really needed on demand. And then as we grew, I have become head of design. So I manage everything that falls under that design category. And Laura, yes. But yeah, no, I mean, I do think we do split a lot of the work. It's just the way it has to be, like you just have to put on different hats and decide when to divide and conquer, even if it's not under your design umbrella. But
yeah, and I think we also like play up our strengths. So like Katie is like gonna be like that really great like type A. She's gonna keep things organized, keep things like timely, make sure that like things are always popping up. And so it is, I think that's really important, is saying, okay, here's your strengths. Like, and it's been cool. Like Katie started as an intern in 2017 with, 16? Yeah. 16. Yeah, she was an intern in 16 for my estate. So cool. And came on board with us in 2017. But it's been fun to watch Katie's job evolve into like what she does best. And then I think for us too, figuring out, like we figured out our roles a little bit as time goes on. And for me, design, I mean, that there's certain things that like we can't do their jobs. And so like design is always gonna be Sam, merchandising is always gonna be me, but some things that we're gonna meet in the middle on are like, maybe it's sales, you know what I mean? But I would say like, we're constantly communicating with one another, all three of us, to be like, what needs to get done, or can you take a lead on this? I will say too, just being candid, like with moving into like our own product development and things like that, I am such like a merchant, and like I probably even err on like a marketing hat. Like that's probably where like we've also found like my strength is. So like I'm kind of behind that. And so it was kind of neat to see Sammy lean into like taking ownership on the product development, because I'm like,
Laura comes up with basically all of the quirky. I mean, the sayings I come up with are very quirky, but hers are cute and can put on a shirt.
There, many designs have come from you, but no bad ideas of brainstorming. But I do think like right now, just being a small business, like we totally are like always all into like, lend a hand with anything. It's just that like there's certain things that we know there either you really can only do or you're better at. And so I think that's like Katie and I are on our drive up here, and just we have a really nice working relationship between our little triangle of just like we all get along extremely well, first of all, and then just like taking ownership where we need to and lending a hand. So where it goes, but being organized, and so it's not a whole cluster. Like, we're very organized to know what needs to get done. Yes,
And you guys are like the full-time team and then you have staff to run the shop at 10 to 10.
seasonal, yeah. But I will say, like, now more than ever, customer engagement and customer loyalty is so important. And so like last summer, we were like in so deep with like all of our markets, our huge partnership with the boutique hotels, like all of that, and just keeping that alive. And I had a lot of travel on my plate. And so I wasn't able to be in the shop as much, and it ran great, but I missed it. I found that that's something that gives me joy. And so I am looking at this summer being like, I'm gonna like put myself in there more, and just knowing that like you're going to make, you know, more sales through that direct consumer purchase than you are through a wholesale too. So making sure that like I'm there during peak hours to like hit the sale hard, and they listen to me, and I can dress them like and turn the sale, you know, from 200 to 400 or something like that. So that's really important. And yeah, I think it's kind of cool to know that. I think it's fun when you find out also what makes you tick a little bit as well.
I have another question. So coming from the boss perspective and working with like the seasonal staff, obviously you guys are super passionate about it because it's like your baby. How do you convey that passion to your staff and get them motivated when you're unable to be in the store to be making those sales?
So one thing like we always, very important to me is to make sure that like as a team, I'm bringing them together and creating just a community within my boathouse team. So there's a community with my like boathouse customers. There's also, it's really important to create the community with my boathouse team. Doing little incentives, like I am always trying to like, if a paycheck, you know, put a little coffee, a gift card of like a coffee, like into their paycheck or whatever that looks like, but then also just making sure that they understand the brand vision. And so, I mean, we do have like a pretty rigorous like training that goes on. And then just like, again, just connecting with them. People are going to want to like, as a boss, like they're going to want to work for you and work hard for you and well for you if they feel like they're in friendship, and they are in friendship, not feel, but you are in friendship with them and you care about them. And so I think that's like another thing where what's made Boathouse so successful is like, it's really about friendship, and that goes from customer to employees to like everything. And it makes you love a brand and want to be there and want to sell it.
I think we have time for one more question. Let's hear from a student.
Yes. So just wondering about the Georgetown store. So, knowing you guys have different specialties, so what is the plan to kind of implement success in Georgetown?
Well,
Just like, that's a big question, but kind of like the first like few months.
The first few months, yeah. So the first few months, basically is going to be hardcore training for me because I have not worked in the store. So Laura's coming next week to do some intense training. I mean, I know the product. I know how to communicate to the customers, like what they're getting. I have a sales background. So it's really just about how to run the day-to-day operations that Laura's going to be like really helping me with. And then for the first 3 months, I might have a support staff come to help to train and to like learn so that I can step away, but I will be there so that I can understand every single day and experience it myself before I ever step away and let someone else run it.
I think like to add to that, they also, especially with like Stacy here too, like it is like, I'm sure you were in there, I'm sure you were in there so much, like your first few years of being open, like in order, I think personally, to create this like really, you know, loved, well-functioning business, it's so important for an owner to be on the floor for like a decent amount of the time. And then the other cool thing about the success is that we have analytics of our Okoboji shop. We know what they love. We know bestsellers. This has been around since like, again, probably 2017. And so we've taken designs that are very tried and true from Okoboji. We're implementing that into Georgetown. They're tried and true, like 98% success rate. And then what we're also doing is we brainstormed, like I brainstormed with Sam, like, okay, what are other like things that that make Georgetown tick? Because what we found is that the more you can localize it for that community, the more they want to purchase it and wear it. And so we have some like, so one of our most successful shirts in Okoboji is we call it our doodle tee, but it's basically it's a doodle that Sam designed. Go on our website, see it, but it's like of the whole the landmarks, I guess, in Okoboji, and it's really well done. And we were inspired by a very like high-end, high fashion brand that did something similar for New York City. We're always kind of looking to like the fashion industry to lead our design. We did that for Georgetown. So we're creating styles that are exclusive. She can't get anywhere else, and someone's gonna wear it. They're gonna be walking like over at the monument, not even in Georgetown, and someone's gonna stop them and say, where do I get that shirt? And they're gonna bring them to Georgetown.
Yeah, we did a pop-up with, I think, 24 women in the fall with 2 styles, sold out of those 2 styles, like in those 2 hours. I had to, like, I snuck one for myself so that I could wear it. And then from there, just already getting the like amazing feedback from the women who are wearing them, just with people stopping them on the sidewalks and saying like, hey, where'd you get that shirt? So that's what we're going for.
And we're also creating a brand identity even through the shop, because like Sammy is doing a whole build out. So you're gonna see our floor is really well known in like the Arnold's Park shop. It's just a really beautiful tile and it's print, and people take pictures of their feet or whatever. I don't know. But we're putting that same tile in the shop in Georgetown. White walls, we're adding a rattan chandelier. So we're doing like these like light items, like light things that we know, like when someone, I mean, the amount of time someone walks into like Boathouse in Okoboji and is like, it's just so happy in here. Like it makes me feel good. We're taking all those elements and incorporating it into Georgetown with some East Coast flair to like, you know, what we think will be really successful. So,
I mean, and the shop is small. Like, I mean, it's 200 square feet.
yeah.
So it is my lemonade stand, my glorified lemonade stand. It's a little bit, you know, it's not quite the, you know, it's built out. It's actually a really beautiful space, and you know, using some of our retail, like our other partners to like business and pleasure to like really help create that resort look and feel, black and white striped awnings to kind of bring that like Hamptons vibe. Yeah. I'm really excited.
It's pretty good. Oh, thank you for the question.
Guys.
Thank you, guys.
I'm Dr. Jessica Hurst. I am Associate Professor in the Apparel Merchandising and Design program, and I teach our retail math, planning and buying, and then also our retail analytics courses. So earlier today, we've heard from smaller businesses in their use of data analytics, which has been great. So thank you all for coming. Now we're going to shift gears a little bit and look at it or hear about a larger department store format and how they're using data and analytics to make strategic business decisions moving forward from a customer side, as well as kind of on the inside, back of the house perspective from a merchandising standpoint. So we're going to get a little bit of piece of customer side as well as the merchandising side. I am pleased to introduce our keynote speaker from Von Maur, Amanda DeGray, merchandising analyst. She is going to touch upon how Von Maur uses internal merchandising applications and how they're using those to make their strategic business decisions moving forward. Amanda has been with Von Maur for over 20 years. She graduated from Western Illinois University with a degree in fashion merchandising and marketing. Her journey with Von Maur took her through the stores, but she has spent the majority of her time in the merchandising office holding various buying roles, 4 divisional merchandise management roles prior to stepping into her analyst role. Amanda monitors Von Maur's budget planning and system data within merchandising. She currently works to develop, test, and implement training for updated applications and new applications in merchandising. A large part of her role is analyzing inventory, forecasts, and department performance to make recommendations based on the need of the business and what she feels will make the largest impact. And so as a part of all of this discussion that we implement in our coursework, I'm super excited that Von Maur is here to talk with us. I'll turn it over to Alyssa first, and then we'll hear from Amanda.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alyssa. I'm the Assistant Director of Human Resources for Von Maur. So just here supporting Amanda, but wanted to give you all a quick background of who Von Maur is. So how many of you have shopped with us before? Good. Wonderful. Majority. Love hearing that. We actually just reopened a new location in Des Moines, so that's gonna be the closest one here at the Jordan Creek Mall. So that opens, November of 2022 and has been killing it since opening. So, like I said, real quick, just today we'll go through who we are, and then Amanda will go through like connecting with the customer, some digital marketing, and then if we have time, we'll talk about our opportunities. So, for those of you who don't know us, there's kind of, three parts to our Von Maur family. We have our full line department store, which is what you're probably most familiar with. So we have 37 store locations. We also have an online e-commerce business, which is our #1 store for Von Maur. And then we also own the junior specialty store dry goods. So that's another sector of Von Maur. We have 72 store locations for dry goods, and that is just pretty much a fast fashion, juniors, women's apparel business. And so there's also one located in Jordan Creek Mall as well. Gosh, that's so fair. I'm gonna use the keyboard instead. So like I said, our Von Maur department store, we opened in 1872. So today we have 37 store locations. Last year we celebrated our 150th anniversary. To this day, we are still family owned and privately held. So we have the ability to make really quick decisions and do use a lot of internal applications in merchandising to make those business decisions. Exciting that we are still growing. We're opening 11 new dry goods stores this year. And next year in 2024, we will be expanding into a new state, into Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And that's just an image of our new Jordan Creek location. So with our merchandising philosophy, we do business a little bit different than most department stores. So our goal is to offer a wide range of prices. So a good, better, best philosophy. We want to be non-promotional. So we don't do any store-wide sales where it's 25% off, 30% off. We take a permanent markdown strategy. So what that means, if things aren't selling or aren't doing well on the floor, we're just going to redline it, mark it down permanently, and hope to move through that merchandise quicker than it would at full price. So if you've been in our stores before, anything that's kind of on a four-way or a fixture, that's going to be full price. And then we have our sale rounders where you can really find some hidden gems, but they're not necessarily going to be promoted or screaming sale throughout the store. Our merchants really look for brand names and unique vendors to kind of offer that boutique feeling within our department store. So we want to try to find, small businesses, mom and pop businesses that really can't be found anywhere else and that will be unique to Von Maur. I'm going to turn it over to Amanda to kind of talk about behind the scenes with connecting to the customer.
All right. Okay, guys, so like Alyssa mentioned, we have a lot of stores out there, not only at Von Maur, but we also have all of our dry goods locations. So when we first opened our doors, a big part of who Von Maur was our customer service and what we give to our customers. Our #1 rule in store is the customer is always right. So we are constantly trying to cater to them and give them what they want. I think as we grew over the years, it got harder and harder for us to have as merchants that direct connection with the customer. When I first started in the buying office 19 years ago, it was required that we travel to every store every year. And as we keep tacking on those stores and opening more locations, it just got too difficult to be able to manage that and be able to travel the market and continue to do the day-to-day business. So our business model has changed a little bit, and we've really amped up our analytics in our office to be able to directly correlate sales to what that customer is really wanting in our business. We still make it out to stores, just a little bit smaller scale. So this year, requirements for buyers are that they get out to stores
at least 4 times a year. So that's like once a quarter. Every holiday season, they do work in store and just help assist with that busy time frame out there. It gives them more time to connect with their customer, to see what's moving on the floor, to really look at their floor and see if their vision had come to life. So we're hoping that they get out there this year and really see some new things, because just with being able to finally cycle out of the pandemic situation, we have a really lot of great new brands that are up and coming in our store. Okay, so something that's developed in that we use every day is what we call our merch reports. And it is a compilation of sales reporting, on-hand reporting, inventory levels that the buyers then use to make decisions daily in the business. Some reports generate and update daily, some report weekly, and some monthly. So not all of these reports up here do they look at on a daily basis, but they do have access to all of them. You can pull them for back through 4 years history. Today I'm just going to go through the most commonly used ones and kind of let you guys know what we do with them. The first one is just daily sales. This is the easiest, most watered down version of what's happening in your business. We can pull this at a department level. It does give you just store information and how those stores are doing at a day level, and then month to date and year to date. So you can kind of see, I just kind of broke down just a little bit of what this specific department was doing. Our next biggest report, I guess I should look over here instead of looking behind, is our this year, last year comparison report. This one I helped develop actually through the pandemic. We developed this report just to allow buyers to quickly see at a glance what had happened. It takes a week snapshot and compares it to the previous year's week. We can actually pull this at a month level, at a quarter level, any time frame that you want, and it gives them just sales reporting information at a vendor level, at a class level, and at a group code level. All of those levels are just different ways that we uniquely identify product that we're selling. So obviously the vendor information is who we're purchasing the styles from, and then class, those are just different ways that we lump certain like items together. So blouses or sweaters or maybe denim, depending on the area, we do have more specific classifications. Otherwise, there are some areas that aren't as class driven, so it's more generic. So every department does have their own grouping of classifications that they use. Group code, that's more a broader way to uniquely identify a group of items. We use this more for grouping things that are delivering within that month. That's a big way that we do it. So everything that delivers in March, we can kind of analyze how those items are doing, whether it's new or old. And then another thing that we do is we have a lot of statements that we do throughout our store. So whether there's themes happening, whether it's an initiative that we're pulling vendors and brands from across multiple departments together to make one unified statement, like family pajamas have been hot over the last couple of years. So we'll take all the men's and women's and all the kids styles and put them together. And this is a way that we can analyze what's selling, what's not selling, what stores are liking and what they're not liking. The top 10 report. This is a by style information, and it gives you truly what sold the week prior. And it gives you your top 10 styles. So this one's a major important report that everybody uses to identify what are the hottest sellers. You can pull this at a store level. Most people just look at it at a total department level to hone in on styles that are working, silhouettes that are working. And then obviously everybody kind of has a threshold that they look at in their area of a sell-through percent. So how fast they're turning that product. And if it's above a certain threshold, then they're definitely looking for reorders and bringing that product in, whether it's that exact same item again or a version of it. So since we reach out to our vendors to purchase those items, sometimes they're sold out of that really great item that's selling well and we want it again. So, you know, you have to kind of get creative in whether you buy a different version, maybe it's in a different material, or whether it's in a shorter sleeve, a longer sleeve, or even sometimes going to another vendor that maybe carried that similar look, and purchasing it from them instead to continue on with those sales if we're running out of product. Average stock, reg sales average stock summary. This one's a really important report that we use to help us determine whether we had enough inventory if something was selling. We typically look at reg sales and weigh those a little more heavily because, like Alyssa mentioned, we're not super promotional. Well, we don't feel like markdown sales are bad because you can still make money on markdown sales. We really want to focus more on what sold at full price, what our customer didn't even bat an eye at purchasing, and we can continue to maximize that full price business. There is a percentage column for reg sales and an average stock, and our general rule is kind of want those percentages to be pretty even. So if you're doing 22% of your sales, you probably have about 22% of your stock. Unless you're going into a busy time frame. If this were a time frame that we pulled before holiday, I'd say we're probably behind. We need to get some more product coming in, and we need to get some more on the floor. Maybe we have it on order, maybe it's not shipping yet. So then be reaching out to vendors to try to get some additional products. This report also reports gross margin %, so how profitable those items are at a vendor. And then how fast we're turning each of those items too. Vendor agenda summary. This is a report that we have out there that's more of like a report card for our vendors and how their progress is with us. We have really great relationships with our vendors, and I think that's probably another unique thing to Von Maur is we really pride ourselves in compromising with our vendors and doing what's best for them and for us. Sometimes it's not just buying and buying and buying. In the end, no one's making any money on it. So sometimes we do have to make those decisions to walk away from brands if it's truly not what our customer is purchasing from us or wanting from us. And you know, I think that's probably a really hard, difficult one for buyers to learn when they come to merchandising is it's not personal. You may still really like your rep and you may still really have those great relationships with those designers that you've worked with online and things like that. Unfortunately, it's just not going to work out. Sometimes paths cross again. So that happens a lot in the retail industry. You may work with a rep or a designer at one line, and then you might end up crossing paths with them because they end up leaving that brand and moving on to another one, and you get to work with them again later. So that's always fun. One thing with this report is we do talk with our brands about any margin needs that we have. So you can kind of see on that second one, looks like maybe we're falling short of what we were projecting to make with that vendor. And then you kind of work through, you know, those tough decisions of how are we going to make that up, whether that's giving product at a discount, whether that's them just paying us a check with money to kind of even us out and make our business whole again. That's kind of something that we work out through negotiation and those close vendor relationships. This one here total different application. Sorry, switched over. I kind of covered everything that was in merch reports that I thought were just kind of the biggest ones that we talked about, and just the ones that are most used. I actually do get a report on who's pulling which merch reports. That's how analytical we get at Von Maur. So I can kind of see if there's reports that aren't being used very often. We do talk about kind of archiving those reports and not allowing them to be pulled because they do take up server space and data information that is, if it's not being needed, then it's just causing extra jobs to run on the background that don't always need to happen. Purchase order tool. This is an application that we built within the last maybe 4 years. I helped build this one. And before we used to confirm all of our purchase orders through an Excel spreadsheet, which probably seems okay, except for the Excel spreadsheets, they can get corrupted. All of the formulas in them can get off sometimes. So we were having a lot of issues where buyers were thinking that they were spending a certain amount of money, only to come to the end. And when they actually confirmed everything, they actually had purchased a lot more product than what they were thinking because their Excel spreadsheet wasn't adding up correctly. So in order to eliminate a lot of that and overspending or underspending, whichever way it was going, we decided to build the in-house purchase order tool. And it allows the buyers to use a really easy application. A lot of things are in just like drop-down click-through menus to add their styles that they want to purchase from a vendor. It allows for an easy back and forth between their boss and approving those orders because they're able to just see it in real time. And if they want to have them make an adjustment, they can make that easily and then approve those orders. The analytical part that happens through the PO tool is we do have reporting right in those orders. So it summarizes everything that a buyer puts on an order and allows them to do a quick check to see, like, did I buy too much? Did I not buy enough? Based on what they're budgeted for those stores. The snip I put up here was just a cluster look. We do cluster buy some of our stores. As we continue to grow, it gets too difficult to individually buy for every location. So we cluster certain stores together that are in similar demographic locations, similar customers, do similar sales volumes, have similar like vendor structures. So it allows the buyer to more easily put their orders together. And you can kind of see in this example, there are clusters that look like maybe we've overbought or underbought them. So in this case, the buyer would probably go back into the order and either add more units or add some more styles or remove some product based on how to write that kind of recap for them. The selling report. This is another application of a ton of analytics that we use that is a snapshot of what sold in store last week. And it is also the tool where everyone decides what is going to go to those hard markdowns. So based on their sell-through percents, their life in weeks on the floor, all of the expectations for their department. They comb through this every week and read through and determine what is needing to go to markdown, what is already at markdown that maybe needs to go further markdown, and flag their reorders. So anything that they feel like has been selling really well, they're going to turn around and flag this in here. The nice thing about this is if you flag a reorder and on Mondays at 3 o'clock, it will automatically create an order in that PO tool that I just showed you on the previous slide. So it saves the buyer a ton of additional work. It goes ahead and adds any style that they flagged within that vendor and adds it to a worksheet for them. And then they just have to go in and distro out their units and by store and by color and by size that they want to order within those styles. So some of our tools, while not only great at reporting analytics for them, also gives them a lot of opportunity to save time and allow them to do some extra things with their time saved, work more efficiently. So that's a lot of what we do in merchandising. And I did want to just speak to, well, I don't oversee digital merchandising or marketing and social media. I do a lot of work with that team because on my side of things, we do basically advertising plans for the whole year. We put them together at 6-month increments, so down to how many e-blasts are going out every week, any social posts that we're going to be doing, how many we're doing each week, and we really try to flow throughout the season what we feel like is going to be the things that we really are taking a stand on. We're trying to push new vendors that we're trying to get out the word out that we're carrying. If we're doing an in-home mailer piece, kind of working that in with all of our digital marketing too, and trying to do as many photo shoots in one photo shoot versus having to book so many different models all the time. And it's trying to really maximize those things. And if we can get a nice plan together, it just makes it easier. I think you guys spoke to that a little bit. It's kind of expensive to hire that whole team and get all that photography done and all of the editing done. So the more you can lump together, the better it is. So we have a whole side to analytics that happens with our marketing too. Last year we launched our Von Maur Rewards program where you can, just like other stores rewards, you basically get a point value for every dollar that you spend within our store. And we have an entire database that pulls out and reports back who's redeeming those rewards and where they're redeeming them, what they're redeeming them for. We also use this information to push out new initiatives and incentives. So we've done a few incentives out there so far, ramping up more throughout this year, just because we were getting the program up and going last year. But this year we'll do, maybe double points for any purchase made on a certain brand. Maybe it's a new brand that we're trying to push, or it might be a brand that we're just a little heavy in inventory in, those types of things. So we're really looking forward to what the rewards program can do to incentivize our customer to purchase more product through our stores. Digital marketing, we have a whole database that basically returns information to us based on anything that we put out there on like that social platform or things like that. This is just kind of what their dashboard looks like. I don't have a ton of information, but like, I think these are all like the things and the posts and the promotions that we're doing. And then this kind of is just all the analytics. So those ladies analyze that and kind of make decisions on what they're doing. Kind of some information that they were able to share with me was just information that they're looking at on our digital marketing. We do the majority of it on Facebook and Instagram. Looks like this specific post was one of our highest interaction posts that we did during a time frame that they shared with me. I don't really remember if it was like fourth quarter or if it was what it was, but anyway, you can kind of see it's just like a ton of outreach that we have. The CTR stands for click-through rate. So that's just anyone who truly clicked on the link and went to our website and either purchased, or maybe they didn't exactly purchase that item, but they may have purchased something else if they kept continuing to click. So this was one of our highest rates last year. Instagram was another push for us too. So our second highest interaction came through an Instagram post last year, this Cuddle and Kind brand that we started carrying. It's these like little stuffed dolls, and then they have a give back that they do. So it's kind of a fun, feel good brand that we have out there, but still a ton of interaction and click-through rates there as well. We do analytics even on where we ship our products from our e-commerce. So we have an e-commerce website for Von Maur as well as dry goods, and do analytics for both of those. And we use this information if we're shipping outside of zip codes that our current locations are in, to help us determine if we need another location. So all of this rolls up to the top, and we search for maybe available spaces. We look at malls within those areas. We determine whether it's a new region or location that we want to move into in the country. So all of that happens at a higher level, but the information does come at a much lower level, down to every single piece that's shipped out of our DC or fulfilled from store. I think probably you can see, obviously Chicago, we have a handful of stores there, New York, and then The other one that usually pops up is, oh, Dallas, down there in Texas. We get a lot of customer from Texas that shop with us online and are repeatedly asking for us to open stores in those in that state. So it's pretty far. I think in order to move to that area of the country, we'd have to look into additional distribution center and you know, kind of starting to grow the business that way. But for right now, we do all of our trucking and distributing right out of Davenport. So all of that's still done through there for all of our stores. Okay, sorry, I might have went fast. I was not sure how long it would take me. Do you have any questions? Yes.
So your percentage, I know you went over that you analyze each of your vendors, but what is your percentage, would you say, do you know, like, how many new vendors do you bring in? How many historic vendors do historically well year over year do you have? Do you know the percentage of new versus old?
Yeah, I would say it's a goal for every buyer to bring in at least 2 new vendors a season. So, you know, we have hundreds and hundreds of brands that we're doing business with. Sometimes those buyers get to select that brand on their own. Otherwise, sometimes it's a company initiative where we're really trying to bring a brand in, and it just also carries children's clothing. So that children's buyer is kind of, oh, this is going to be one of your new brands. And so sometimes buyers get to make the new brand decisions and sometimes they don't, but for the most part, we do try to hit that too. Sometimes it's not always possible. There are certain areas whose budgets just don't get expanded as much every year. So if they're not having a bunch of vendors that are downtrending, it may be hard for them to fit in a new brand, but usually someone's downtrending that you're trying to move off of because their business just isn't as strong. So. If that percentage, but yeah, it's a goal.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So when you are working with your marketing team and laying out the 6-month spread of Instagram posts or Facebook or whatever, how do you work with that as far as how does marketing impact your buy plan based off of past interactions or click-through rates from the social post? How does that work?
Okay, we probably look for it more as our marketing doesn't drive our business decisions. Our marketing comes from our business decisions. So we're going to do all of our buying and then we're going to determine what goes on for our marketing. So whether it's we typically will buy a season at least 6 to 12 months in advance. So we have a good idea of what's happening and what we're going to be doing. So then that way it's really easy just to kind of say like, okay, these are the brands that we went after in a big way across multiple departments that we're making big statements with. Some of the statements that we decide upon are done ahead of time. Like we knew this year, we really wanted to go after in home decor and gifts, a huge like porch and outdoor living, just because we know a lot of people during the pandemic focused on the inside of their homes and really renovating and or buying all new home decor. So now it's just taking that to the outside. So we have a huge like porch push that we're doing. So all of that branding and marketing will happen because of everything that we bought for that. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yes.
I think I heard you say near the beginning of the presentation that you also like to look for, great new brands. You used like a phrase, think like mom and pop or independent, companies, et cetera. So how do you find those or how do they find you? I mean, that's different than saying, oh, I'm going to go to market and I'm going to talk to all these big manufacturers. So how does that work if there's a small privately owned company?
We do a lot of competitive shopping.
Okay.
So whether that, it looks a little differently depending on what area you're in. Some people actually take comp shopping trips. So they'll choose a location and I've been to the Carolinas before to hit up a lot of like more boutique retail shops and look for brands that maybe we're not as aware of. We do a ton of social media. Where you like just comb through all the social media, see what's being promoted, see what's happening out there. So a fair amount of what the buyer does, they have to kind of do their own research. We do have a lot of brands that reach out to us and want to set something up, maybe send us a few samples for us to look at. And sometimes we keep in contact with those vendors for a lot of years before we ever bring them into the store. You know, we do some testing of vendors where we would bring them into just like a handful of stores, but really a true test is someone who can service at least 50% of our stores. So if you're not a brand that can produce enough units for us to fulfill an order, it's probably not going to work for both of us to get into business together. If it's just going to put a strain on your business to, you know, not be able to produce the amounts that we need. And then also for us, if it's going to be on our floor for 1 or 2 weeks and our customer is going to be like, wait, where'd that brand go? Oh, well, they need 6 more months to get another, you know, order together for us.
What's the, I know it's gonna vary, but is there kind of like a benchmark minimum that in terms of capacity that they'd have to be able to produce?
Like unit wise, is that?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I can give you a couple of benchmarks. Probably some of our smaller departments are our children's departments. So in those areas for a style, you might buy maybe 200, 250 units of style. Now, when you get into women's clothing, men's clothing, or even something like a shoe brand, in order to fulfill just the Von Maur locations, you're looking at like 500 units of style. So sometimes that's a lot of units for a mom and pop. Sometimes that's their entire inventory that they're creating for an entire season. So yes.
If you were to place a reorder, like you sell out, what's your typical requirement for like turnaround time?
Well, a reorder is truly based on like how long you feel like that item can live on your floor, and you're going to try to maximize that as much as you can. So you kind of have a typical formula of like how many you sold or how many you're averaging you're selling times however many weeks you want it on the floor, increase some extra units on there for the percentage that you want to turn around and be able to mark down too. So then you kind of subtract off what you already own, and that's what you reorder. So it can be anywhere from 100 units. It can be anywhere to, I put reorders through for 1,500 units before on a style. So it just kind of depends on how long you're planning on carrying that item and how long it can live. And that's when you kind of get creative and you're like, oh, I'm kind of getting to the end of the season. Maybe I need to just take this item into next season and, you know, make a sweater silhouette out of it or make a tank top out of it and do something different depending on which way you're swinging. Yes.
So you mentioned that in the sales system will generate purchase requests, purchase order when they see the stock is going lower. And I guess that process, at the end of the process, is the buyer make the decision whether they are going for that purchase order. Can you, or is there any other process in the system that is automated? And do you think how accurate? I'm not sure accurate is the right word, but how accurate do you think the automated suggestions are for the buyers?
When we do a reorder that we flag from that seller report over to our PO tool, it doesn't add any units. So the buyer does have to make the decision on how many they want to buy. We do have a system though of basic stock replenishment that we do throughout our stores. So we have an automated system. It uses an algorithm to determine what we've been selling, where your 2 years history has been on that item, by size down to the store level, and it will put a suggested order together for you. You can set orders to run weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly in that tool. And I would say that's a pretty accurate tool. We feel fairly confident in those things. I think we do see hiccups sometimes. That's another part of my job as I analyze what that system is forecasting for us on a seasonal basis. And then when we move into peak timeframes, especially when we see Easter shift from month to month, it's clearly that history is going to kind of move around and it's not going to look right. Sometimes we have to go in and manually move the history to match the weeks up. So that we feel fairly confident in. A lot of buyers blindly approve those orders because they're like, I've been ordering this item, I'm not gonna run out. It's an item that I'm gonna keep on my floor all year round. If I get a little heavy, I can, you know, tighten it up a little bit later. And then there's other people who that's all their orders are those basic stock replen orders. So they comb through those weekly and really look unit by unit on what they're ordering because in a department like fine jewelry or designer jewelry, you don't want to get too heavy in those items because you may only sell a couple of pieces a month in certain styles at certain locations. So even having 2 more pieces is having like a whole extra 6 months supply that you might not need. So it kind of depends on what area you're in.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So from the pandemic, right? So is there any strategy change that has been made for the buying department? You know, you may have seen a lot of challenges, especially in retail. I think you love it, right? So are there any changes that you guys made?
Yeah, I would say the biggest one is just being more flexible. I think that as a company, we really had a lot of like buying practices that were very rigid and very like, we go to market for a week, we come back with write our orders in 2 weeks, and then we put that to bed and we don't do any more with it. And then maybe we circle back around. Clearly, that's a little different now. A lot of our buyers still aren't even traveling to markets. They're doing a lot of virtual appointments still. Just vendors themselves can't afford to go to market right now. So we find that the virtual markets work the best. So they're just in a constant state of going to market. So they have to just be open and flexible. They have to be really a lot better planners than maybe what they had been in the past. I feel like a lot of them really spent a lot of time during the pandemic honing in on their planning skills. Our buyers, the great thing about working at Von Maur is we don't have a lot of layers. So our buyers are the planners. They're the people who pick the product. They're also the people who decide they don't want the product anymore. So they make all of those decisions. And right now that cycle looks like it's just happening all the time. That can be a little daunting. If you're a person, it's hard for you to stay organized. So organization is key to staying on top of all of those orders and getting them in on time. Another thing I would say is just, let's see, so many things learned. I feel like, Alyssa, is there something that you can think of? Yeah. Well, one thing that we had to, like during the pandemic, kind of shift around really quickly is implement buy online, pick up in store. Oh yeah. So that was, we were already doing fulfill from store. So we had kind of that program where our online business was able to fulfill directly from our store locations and ship it to the customers. But then we also had to implement buy online, pick up in store within, 6 weeks of the pandemic, where customers are able to truly shop online, select their location that they want, and see all of the available merchandise that's at that location and be able to purchase it and pick it up within 2 hours. So that was probably the biggest, benefit that came from the pandemic. But there were some, other exciting things too. We launched, or we tested like virtual shopping appointments. Every store, the sales associates informed their large, customer base of that service that we offer. That's one. I feel like we're a little bit past it now. It's hard to like 3-year anniversary think back of like everything we did, but it was just trying to make decisions quickly and do it with the customer and the business in mind. Yeah. I feel like the pandemic is really when we grew our analytics. Because again, there wasn't that constant interaction with customers and being able to be with them. I feel like it really changed the face of our cosmetics department. Really ramping up huge events that we were going to have. We had just remodeled a good majority of the stores to house these super large event tables within the cosmetics department so they could host events. Yes, master class, that's what we were gonna call it. Yeah, those never happened because the pandemic happened. So we're getting ready to relaunch them and we're gonna go forward with that. But I think that's when the analytics part really started ramping up and needing more things to tell us what was happening in store because we weren't getting any of that information from the customer interaction, from hearing from our associates. We used to talk to store managers on a regular basis, and they were obviously far too busy to be hopping on a call to talk to us. They were mostly just trying to staff stores and keep customers helped and things like that. So I think then the opposite that we learned from having so many analytics at our fingertips was, just making sure that we're staying true to who we are. A report in a paper can tell you, you need more of this, or you need less of this, or you should do this, or, point you in all these directions. And it's really just trying to remember our customer and who we are as a company and not veering too far away from that. So I go back and forth a lot with our COO of, this is what I read in all my reports, and this is what I think we should do, and here's where I came to my conclusion. And she's like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. I still think that we should just keep doing this. So sometimes we don't care what the report says, and we're just going to use our gut and go after it that way, because sometimes that's what you do in retail. It's all a risk and it's a gamble, and you never know what the customer is going to want. All the forecasting businesses can tell you it's going to be a hot year in blouses, but if she doesn't buy them and doesn't want to wear a blouse, it's not going to be a hot year in blouse. So I think you just kind of have to make sure that you're truly a risk taker in this business and willing to use those reports to help guide you in your decision, but not make them so black and white that you can't use your gut to go after maybe a statement or a brand or something that you really truly believe in that you think your customer will like. Yeah.
You had mentioned that a couple of the different reports, you indicated that that particular report was something that you had helped develop.
Yeah.
Can you share with us? So that's kind of on the back of the house, like as a customer or, even as a student, you guys working in Canvas, et cetera. Like we all have things with technology or some type of app or whatever it is that we're like, wow, I wish it could do this. Like we all as a customer have things like that, or wow, I wish Canvas could just grade that paper for me. And I wish it, or X, that doesn't have to be just a multiple choice. I wish it could just read, et cetera. So can you share with us a little bit about some of the data points that you used and the process of, talking with merchants? And I know you have a background in the buying office and in a lot of those different roles. So you yourself knew what you wish the system could do, but it couldn't, and can you talk to us a little bit about that process and how that PO system came to be?
Yeah. I feel like those are usually large projects that do fall under my quote unquote project lead kind of umbrella that I sit with. And basically what we do is we decide what's really not efficient in our work environment and what things are holding us back from being able to really grow and or save time. Usually it's something that buyers, divisionals are talking a lot about, like it taking too much time. It takes them hours of their work week to complete something. And if there's a faster, better way, we're going to try to work through that. So I really sit down and I decide like, okay, what is it truly at the heart of this project that is taking so long? What is the things that we could do to make it better? And then I go to our development team. We have an entire team that we employ that works in our IT and IS department. I sit down with the handful of them that I think would touch the project and just kind of throw out my ideas of like, this is what we do, and this is our current process, and this is how we get to the end of the project. It would be great if you could build us something that would do this and this and this, just to get this done the way we do it now. And then once we kind of like scope that out for the project, then we kind of start layering on all the wishes and all the wants. And things that we could do if we had this, like that would even make it better and would give them more information, would help them more. And so some of those projects last years. Currently, right now, I'm working on kind of the third iteration that will link all of our systems together. It'd be our planning tool. Our buy plan is currently an Excel spreadsheet, and again, is something that can easily get corrupted, can easily not be capturing everything that they're using and purchasing and or planning for. So trying to build a tool that would link all of the systems together and track orders and track how much money everybody has spent. We started that project and scoping it out before the pandemic. And then it kind of got put on the back burner while we escalated a few other projects that needed to get done quickly to help us during that time frame analyze our business and do things. And then during the pandemic, I continued to work closely with one of the developers, and we have, I think it's like I don't know, I can't remember how many lines, I think it's like 4,000 or 5,000 lines in Excel of just requirements of what the tool has to do and what it's supposed to do, and all of the equations and what databases it needs to go to, what tables it's going to pull the information from. So we did last November. We started working, we started building. So the developer, he's been really tediously working on that for us, and we're hoping to roll that out by the end of this year. My goal is September, October, more than likely it'll be November. But that's a really exciting project to do.
So are you building these software packages like in-house? Like you have an internal developer, you're not going like to Oracle or other companies?
Our basic stock system is through Oracle, as well as our budgeting system is through Oracle, but everything else we have is and then they just link to each other.
Is Maur using ChatGPT in any way? Do you know what they're doing with that?
Our internal IT and IS departments are using ChatGPT. But at this point, we haven't done anything more with it than that. I think it just allows them to help with coding and things like that that they're working on. They are finding it fairly helpful. I think one of the guys looked up a recipe for me the other day in it, which I thought was hilarious. I was like, oh, that's Pinterest. We already have that app out there, but I guess we could use another one. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens with it and how it kind of transforms.
I was thinking it would be interesting to see like things that didn't sell as well as you did if you looked across a number of years to see, are there patterns there that could tell you this is something that we're forgetting about when we're making these decisions? So just to do some analysis of winners or losers.
Yeah, that's true. Any other questions? Yeah.
So you mentioned this is kind of more of the data points on the store side. So one of the things you talked about when you showed the table of like the orders were coming from Dallas, Texas, for example. And so what other data points do you use to decide where that next location would be as you're growing? Because you said Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 2024. And so, I mean, being a privately held company, you can do that slow calculated growth, right? And make those best decisions. So other than location from the distribution center, what the data points would be factors that you would look into?
Sourcing and searching for multiple locations at once. So sometimes our locations take a lot of years to come to fruition and others don't. Sometimes things get leaked to the press earlier than what we're ready to leak things. So you may see things online and you're like, oh, I didn't know they were going to open a store there. Sometimes malls will share information prior to us really signing on those things. But I think we look at a mall if it's they have to share information with us down to how many dollars per square foot each store generates. So we look at that. If it's not hitting a certain threshold, if other stores aren't selling a certain dollar per square foot, we won't consider that mall. So we look at what's happening in those malls, what other stores are there. We like to be with certain stores because it's kind of our customer shops with us, but also shops those brands as well and those stores. So it's not all about just where we're shipping to, but it's also trying to find that right location. You know, an existing building is always great. It's more cost effective for us to take over an existing location and do a remodel on the inside than build one. We have built a handful of them in the last couple of years here, but the remodels have been working well, especially since there are a lot of other large retailers going out of business. So it's good to snag their locations if we can. So it kind of depends on that. Sometimes we'd really like to get into a mall, but maybe the space that's available is too large or too small. So then we kind of have to make that determination of whether we want to scale down the building or whether we want to add on. And if that makes sense cost-wise for us as well, if we feel like we'll get a return on investment with that. Yeah.
Are you only in malls?
We have a handful of freestanding-ish locations, like Corbin Park is in Kansas City. And I was like, and it was a freestanding, it was supposed to be a mall development when we agreed to that, but then a bunch of stores pulled out. So we ended up being a freestanding store there. Over the last couple of years, though, it has been building up around in that area. So there are a lot more stores. It's more of an outdoor shopping feel now. Glenview in Glenview, Illinois is an outdoor retail space. So it's not a mall, but it's more of like little shops kind of connected. It has more of like a downtown feel to it. So you can't directly walk from our building into another building. You have to go outside and then into their building. So it's not quite mall, but kind of mall. So yeah, we mostly are mall locations, but have a few that are.
I asked because I noticed in the East Coast that a lot of malls are just not existing anymore, and they're building these like town squares.
Yeah.
And which are fun. I mean, they're great, and I feel like they really are adapting to like the modern shopping. Do you guys see yourselves ever like, what do you see for like the growth?
Yeah, I think we feel like those outdoor kind of lifestyle situations are really the direction that we're going in. Luckily, with a lot of our current locations, we have that customer already built up. So we're kind of like a destination store. Some people truly just park outside our location, go inside and come back out and don't hit up anything else in the mall. So we have that brand loyalty or customer loyalty already. You know, and I think we recently just moved the Des Moines location. So you know, we went from the Valley West Mall. That was definitely a mall that was dying over the last handful of years, and there's not a whole lot happening there right now, which is super sad. So we did move to the Jordan Creek location, and that has been super successful for us. So I envision a lot of that happening where we move locations to a more up and coming area that works better.
Any last question? Here.
We're good.
We already talked through that?
We're good.
Okay,
We're skipping it.
I'm so sorry.
No, I wanted it.
We do have an last year. It was really fun. It is a great opportunity. We have a store internship and we have a buying internship program. So depending on what you're interested in, there are requirements to get into the buying. One that Alyssa can give you more information if you want to reach out to us. Yeah. What? Oh, yes, corporate training post-grad. That is a program that I went through when I graduated. And it's jumping on board with Maur, getting some in-store 8-week training, and then moving into an associate buying role, depending on how your AP training goes, I guess, in stores. So associate buyers are buyers who assist large buying areas in the company. Because that area is just too large, we haven't been able to break it out to 2 buying positions. So the associate buyer helps with a lot of order writing. They usually take on a portion of the business, like our gift associate buyer typically runs the food department while she's the associate buyer, and then allows the buyer to focus just really on her gifts areas and giftables. So usually associate buyers, we sometimes have anywhere from like 2 to 10 of them. It kind of depends on how many are in the office at that time. So that's a great program to be able to transition into that role. Plug for all the
Then here's the QR code for class attendance if you need that. And then I think Emily will be in here shortly for the 3rd and final
She's on her way.
drawing of the day.
Yeah.
I was like.
And we still have plenty of snacks, goodies back here and drinks, so please make sure you grab something.
Yes. Okay, Dr. Need's gonna come up and draw again. We might have to draw multiple times, but these are a collection of names from all day. But this winner gets a sweatshirt, a water bottle, a sticker, and the tote bag with the pin. This is a $130 value prize.
Yep. Working jerks.
Not here. Okay. We're gonna keep drawing. Stand walker. I guess you did. If you want a different size, I will go down and exchange it.
Okay. All right. Well, Sam's admiring her nice winnings here. So I just wanted to thank everyone for coming. I know it's you have come at different stages throughout the day. And we think this has just been a really great exchange of ideas and information and networking. And we want to thank all of our presenters again for coming from various distances to be with us today to share your thoughts on retailing in a digital era. So I think we've all learned something today. So let's show our appreciation. So I think with that, we're going to close up. However, on your way down, we have something, maybe I'll just give a little word about this. So we have a fairly new, we opened during the pandemic also, but some of you talked about pandemic challenges. So as you came in today, I know you were all in hurry to get upstairs here, but we have a student operated retail store on the first floor of the building called Innovate 1858. So hearkening to when Iowa State started. So we have student design products such as the sweatshirt that Sam won right there. For cyclones, by cyclones. Yeah, so there we go. Okay. So we have a number of student design products, but we also have student entrepreneurs that have their own micro businesses and they pitch their products to be offered, launched and offered in our store as well. And we have the official Iowa State tartan and what else am I missing, Emily? But the students can you gain experience in every facet of retail operations because we have an entire team and it's embedded within a class. So from buying to visual to, we have an online store as well. You know, so this is a fairly new thing. It's pretty unique as programs go. And Emily is our student lead on that project, or grad student lead. And we have how many students in the 18 total this time. It varies a little bit semester to semester. And then all of the faculty that you have seen here today are on our supervisory team. So at any rate, we would like to welcome you to stop by, just take a look at it if you have not seen it. And I know Emily wanted to just give a little mini tour along with Audrey, some of her seasoned professionals. Audrey didn't know that, did she? Seasoned staff professionals as we go down, just to kind of point out some of the unique things about the store. So, not just the Oak Lake candles; those are amazing. But we've got all So we also feature alumni in the store. So if we have, I would say, alumni and it fits well with the product mix, and we're very open to that as well. So anything else that you want to say?
No, that's it. So yeah, give you some time to gather if you want to grab any goodies, and then Andre and I will meet you out at the lobby area there, and then we'll take you down to the store and give you a whole little spiel and tour and answer any questions.
Yeah, and for the guest speakers to talk about how we'll navigate to our dinner plan. That when we're done. Okay, perfect. Thank you, everyone.